All right, let's go ahead and call to order a meeting of the Kent County Board of Commissioners. It is 8:35. I've got no one else to blame but me for that. Sorry about that. Thank you all for being here. For those of you who are here to talk about trash later on, I thought in honor of the snow coming in for the first time, we would do a mandatory 1 hour walk through the South Kent landfill. Is that okay with folks? All right. Well, if you've already done it, then you get exempt. All right. All right, call to order. Go ahead and take the roll call, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Commissioners Bujak, Diaz, Pakla,
Here.
Wooden,
Here.
Baker,
Here.
LeGrand, Oliver King, Hennessy, McLeod, Sparks, Teal, Breevy, Coleman, Burl,
Here.
Ponstein, Hildenbrand, DeBoer, Merchant, Antor, Vice Chair Green,
Here.
Chair Steck.
I'm here.
Mr. Chair, you have 19 members present, 2 absent. You have a quorum.
Thank you very much. For our invocation, I will call on Commissioner Sparks. Good morning.
Thank you, Chair. Happy Thursday, everyone. I thought it was befitting to talk about grace today. We need some grace right now coming off of this election. Grace has many definitions, from God's grace to being gracious around those to you or yourself. Everyone needs a little grace in their life, and it's love, mercy, and patience that humanity needs right now to survive. Realize the power that you have to extend grace to yourself and others. May I introduce Chaplain Reverend Tom Bradley. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you, Tom, for that presentation. That's a new first for the board. Thank you. All right. Special order of business. We have before us today our Drain Commissioner, Ken Yonker. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. And I appreciate you giving me this hour to present to this board what the Drain Commission.
I'm putting the timer on right now, Ken.
All right. No, I was given firm instructions to keep it to 10 minutes. So I'm going to move through quite quickly. I have a short PowerPoint, but for a number of members that aren't familiar with what the Drain Commissioner does, I just want to read through the mission statement. It kind of gives a broad description of what my role is in Kent County. The mission of the Kent County Drain Commissioner's Office is to improve and maintain stormwater drainage for the public health, safety, convenience, and welfare of the citizens of Kent County, and also to be an effective and efficient steward of our natural and fiscal resources. The County Drain Commissioner is elected for a 4-year term to perform a number of duties assigned by state law. The Office of the Drain Commissioner is responsible for the administration of the state drain code as it applies to the receipt of petitions for establishment, improvement, or maintenance of over 568 miles of county drain, 389 stormwater detention ponds in Kent County. Additionally, the Drain Commissioner must assess the cost of this maintenance and improvement to the municipalities and property owners that benefit from the work. Due to this authority to maintain and assess, the Michigan Legislature has required the Drain Commissioner to be responsible to the voters of the county he or she serves. Under the Subdivision Control Act, this office reviews stormwater plans for all plats developed within the county and maintains records on over 2013 developments. Other duties include the administration of 20 court-established lake levels under the Lake Level Act, participation in the NPDES Phase 2 program, participation on lake improvement boards, maintenance of the GIS system as it pertains to the county drains, and the resolution of citizen complaints and requests for service. So that's a pretty general breakdown of what this role does. In that report that you have, it goes into more detail of the processes that we go through every day under the drain code. I'm not going to go into that. If you have questions, you can ask. But I want to go ahead and move into the PowerPoint. This is just some of the major projects that we've been working on. And one of those is Nash Creek Intercounty Drain, Knapp's Corner Drain. And that's our infamous pond up there by Knapp's Corner in Grand Rapids Township. We have the Kilgus Drain, Emmons Lake Drain, Saddlebake Drain, Duncan Lake Intercounty Drain, and Irving Rogers Drain. These are all petition projects that we've been working on for the last 2 years. Being a petition project is where we've been asked by either municipality or property owners to take on these projects. And then we go through a public hearing, and through that public hearing, they find it necessary, then I have to proceed with these projects that have been given to me. Nash Creek, this is up in Sparta. We've been at this one for, well, we're on our second year working through this. You can see there's a lot of debris in amongst the drain. And then we have a lot of erosion down through the village. This drain has been very involved in the fact that one of our major goals is to stop the chronic flooding of the village. Every time we get high water events, the village gets the brunt of it. So the farmers have been very cooperative. We've been able to purchase 8 acres of some wetland. And we're working with Eagle to get that established into a detention, so we can hold that water upstream instead of having it all run downstream, and then we'll release it at a slower rate. So we'll take a wetland, have it as a wetland, and also be part of water detentions, a dual purpose. It's kind of a new relationship with Eagle, and we're working through some of the pitfalls that we have to work through. But they've been very interested, very cooperative. It's been a good relationship. We also have some erosion down through the banks that we have to stabilize. And that's where a lot of our sediments coming from, down through into the village and into the Rogue River, which becomes a real environmental issue because when you have that much sediment, that is a trout stream, the Rogue River. And Nash Creek used to be a trout stream. But all that sediment buries those eggs, and then they don't hatch. So we're hoping by the time we're done, we're going to be able to reestablish the trout stream labeling for Nash Creek. Then we have Knapp's Corner, and I refer to this as the pond from hell. I've been working on this thing for 8 years now, and we are looking at the end of it. We have final engineering that is being wrapped up. We hope to be putting this thing out for bid come spring. We do have a little hiccup right now. We're being sued on this, but I think we're going to be able to work through that just fine. This is the Kilgus Drain, and this was another unique project that I ran into a year ago. You can see we have a railroad track there. You can see that cone that's sitting down alongside that rail, that's a sinkhole. And what we have underneath this rail is a county drain. It was established 10 years before the rail went in, and that was my saving grace on this project, because the railroad has to cooperate with me, not me them. So it has gone very well. We have all our agreements in place with the railroad. We have a computation of cost put together. The cost is extremely high because the pipe underneath has to be jack and board. It's 21 foot deep, and we have to go from a 36-inch pipe to a 72-inch. So we're looking at about $1 million just for the railroad's expense. We're trying to have that conversation before we put it out for assessment notice, and try to avoid the legal confrontation if there will be one. So far, they haven't responded, so we may just have to go through the legal process and hope for the best. But to this point, I don't expect any hiccups with it. They've been a great partner on this project to get this done, and it definitely is a very serious issue when we got the pipe underneath that rail crumbling. So we did a temporary liner to hold that pipe in place until we can replace it. So we're getting real close to that. Emmons Lake, this is in Caledonia Township. Walter, you're familiar with this area. This is a picture of Cherry Valley. Looking in the spring, looking toward the south. Floods every year. And we have culvert pipes under the road, but they aren't adequate to handle the water flow. We have a drain that runs down alongside the road that is not adequate, hasn't been cleaned in 50 years. But it wasn't a county drain until now. We were petitioned to take this on, and part of that petition was to take the county drain where it stopped on the south side of 84th Street, and that would be west of M37, and carry it all the way down to the river. So I've gotten easements on all those property, from all those property owners signed, and now we're in the final stages of designing. And so, big part of this is to fix our flooding on Cherry Valley, which will involve putting a bridge in, raising the road about 4 foot, so we're above the high water mark, and then cleaning the culverts and the drains to take it all the way to the Thorn Upper River so the water can flow. Up on the south end of this project, we have a lot of water flow down there where we put 2 new box culverts in a couple years ago under Emmons and Main Street in Caledonia, and our water already is within 2 foot of flooding over the roads. And we can't go bigger. So we got to hold that water back and slow it down. So we're in the process of working with the Parks Department and the Road Commission to get some property that they are no longer using, putting easement over it, and expanding on that wetland. Again, detention and wetland quality type plantings in it. So another partnership with Eagle to make our water cleaner and to hold it with that type of land. The Saddlebag Drain. This is another one that's been going on for a couple of years. We're finally at the final stage of Eagle permitting. That conversation, we had a walkthrough this week with them on the final details of the permit, and it looks like we're going to be able to get this thing moving real shortly. Big part of this project is where we had to connect a section of the stream, was not part of the county drain. So we had to connect that so we can maintain that to stop the erosion that's taking place in the city of Kentwood, which at that point used to be the Gillette drain. But in this process of this petition, that has been brought in to be part of the Saddlebag. So it's one drain system. It's not two. So that'll all be connected and it'll all be referred to as a Saddlebag drain. We have about $1.5 million, $2 million worth of work that has to be done on this drain. The thing was in pretty bad shape, so there's a lot of work that has to be done. Duncan Lake is another one up in the Caledonia area. It's an inter-county drain with Berry County and Allegan. This is in my neighborhood, so I'm not allowed to vote on this project. It has to be done by the drain commissioner from Ottawa County. But this is a major project. Again, we're having a lot of problems with Duncan Lake and the property owners flooding, and so we have to hold that water back up in Kent County. So we've purchased about 10 acres of farmland, lower area farmland from a local farmer, and we're going to, again, create detention, wetland, bring that ground back into the wetland it was before it was started to be farmed. So that's, Eagle's been excited about that. And then upstream of that, we're going to take and create two-stage ditching, which I see on, we have a picture of it here on where you can see you have your base flow at the bottom, and then you step back 10 foot on a platform, and then it goes up the rest of the way. So when that water hits at high volume, the velocity is slowed down because it can spread wider and it can hold that water. And then from there, it'll go into our ponds and be held back and then slow released into the county drain again. That will make a big impact on slowing down the flooding downstream. These are things that I focus on our drains. That is not the norm. And with the development we have going on in Kent County, when I can get into an area where I have farm ground and I can get farmers to cooperate and give me the land I need, now's the time to hold that water back. Get that figured out where it is, hold that water back so when it does develop, we're not having flooding. It's cheaper to do it now. So those are one of the main things I focus on. And being able to work with Eagle on this, we can also create a level of natural filtration that a wetland creates. And it becomes a pretty good project, not just for now, but long term. And solves a lot of problems before we have them. So that's one of the biggest focuses that we have in our office. Irving Rogers is up in Bound Township. It's another, this is Lisa's backyard. You can see on the screen there, there's two sections of light green. All that blue waterway flows in, those are all county drains, but the light green areas never became county drains. Well, I don't know why, but we have that occasionally throughout the county. So anyway, the community had a problem because our plugging was in those areas. I couldn't get the water to flow because I couldn't clean it. That wasn't a county drain. So I was petitioned, went through the process. Those have been included as part of the county drain. That last section of green is the most critical because that's the base of the whole system where it empties into the Coldwater River. And if that's not clean, everything upstream that we clean will not flow effectively. So there has been some disgruntlement with this project, and we're still tied up in court on this one. We've worked through most of it, but it's been a year. I think we'll probably be another 6 months before we can move it out of court and start the project. So there's always somebody that's not going to be happy, even though the majority is. But it takes only a few that snags me up, and then we got to go through the legal process to get the solutions. So other drain projects we have going is the Cascadia drain. This is another very unique one in the sense that our drain was put in outside the easement, and the people who had the property built their house over the top of it. It's clay tile, 90 years old, it's collapsing. So this was a declaration of emergency, and we're just, they're digging the trench today to get the new pipe in, and once that's in place, we'll be filling the old pipe with concrete, liquid concrete, so that that house will be protected and not have it collapse through the winter. So that one's moving forward. Behan Foley is a major drain through Granville and Wyoming. That's in the engineering stages. And we have Dean Lake Outlet that's been in the process for 2 years. We're finally getting ready to almost get that ready for bid. Sierra Estates is another one. Rexford Lake is an intercounty drain. Those are all ready to go, all petition projects. And what do I have to look forward to 25? All those projects plus. So that's just a rough thing. I mean, I could talk all day on all the projects we have our fingers on right now, but we'll leave it to those. Those are some of the major ones where I think we're going to have this county will be able to be proud of when we're finished. Knapp's Corner, it's going to be. I think it's going to be an opportunity for us to have educational. We're setting it up for that. So WEMEAC, we'll use it. Pasture Creek stewards will use it. They can bring classes in there to show how we can take out detention pond, a muddy, dirty detention pond, and make it into a wetland detention. And we will be measuring the water outflow from this pond before it goes to the river and measuring up what's coming into the pond and see what our difference is going to be because of the improvements in this pond when we're done. And we'll be able to handle the water flow without flooding. And it won't be holding water like it is now because it'll be a constant flow leaving that pond. Where now, every time we get high water events, I have no outlet, no way for that water to get out of that pond. And we've been close. If that thing floods, we flood 12 houses. And it's happened once before, so I can't let it happen again because now we're in negligence. So this is going to be a big improvement and a big relief for Kent County to not have to deal with this anymore. So.
All right, thank you. So questions, comments, Commissioner Ponstein.
Thank you, Chair Stack. Ken, thanks for being here today. When most people think about drains or governmental units, it's about controlling flooding. When I think about the drains, this is the closest to the beginning of the floodplains and the water runoff, and it's more about clean water to me. So I'm going to highlight the Duncan Lake and Nash Creek. The plan is to build this retention pond, recreate wetlands. Hats off to you. But I always hear the county and the federal government, and not the federal government, but Eagle, the largest organization that saves wetlands. You add everyone else up. Ducks Unlimited has done more to preserve wetlands than anyone, and that's a privately funded 501(c). Has anyone reached out to them? I don't know if Eagle likes to do this or even Trout Unlimited. I mean, one of your goals is to restore it as a trout stream too. Habitat's the number one thing for clean water.
Yeah.
Do you think we can reach out
Oh,
at least to Ducks
absolutely.
Unlimited?
We
They're
do.
always,
Yeah, I'm the facilitator, all right? As the drain commission, I'm restricted by law what type of work I can do on these drains. And I can't do duck habitat, I can't do fish habitat, I can't even put trees on it. But I'm doing it because I bring in the conservation district. They have a grant for trees. We're going to be putting 2 miles of trees on this 2-stage ditch on Nash Creek. We have Ducks Unlimited and Trouts Unlimited we've been working with. They've done water quality testing. So they're helping us design in the system how we create fish habitat, again, to bring those trout back up that stream. And the trees are part of the cooling of the water, shading it, create a healthy atmosphere for fish. So it's all these different folks together that are making this project possible. I'm limited, but with their help, I can kind of step over those limitations.
the Conservation District has given you a lot of education.
Yeah. Yeah. We meet with them regularly.
Commissioner Diaz.
Thank you, Chair Commissioner. Thank you for being here. I'm very happy to see and hear that you're, and I mean, maybe it's probably just inherent in the work that you do, but that you're taking a very long-term view on the work that needs to be done and the priorities that you're taking today. I also wasn't aware of your limitations when it comes to those things that you just mentioned that you're not allowed to do, but with your partnerships, you're able to accomplish. In my view, it's just yet another example of the things that need to be reformed at the state level so that your job and our job can be a lot easier. When I was first running for this position, I myself was still under the impression that places like Michigan and places like Kent County would be so-called, I forget the technical term, but essentially a safe place, a safe environment as our climate changes and as things become much more extreme when it comes to our weather patterns. The scientists are now saying that places like Michigan, while we do have the benefit of not having tornadoes or other types of extreme events, what we can expect is extreme events when it comes to our patterns, specifically when it comes to precipitation. And so the fact that you're taking this long-term view, I'm very happy to see. Thank you for all the work that you're doing, and it was a pleasure to work with you the last 2 years.
Thank you. And that's a good point you bring up, because when we set the diameters of our pipe, our culverts, it's all based on that newest data that we have on where our high water events are going to be and where we're going 10 years from now, based on the patterns we've been seeing. So we're rather plan for bigger, and 10 years from now, we're still adequate. We're not going back in digging up our streets. So it costs a little more now, but it'll be a lot cheaper 10 years from now. A lot cheaper.
Commissioner Pecklin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just going down the road right here. Ken, I really appreciate your work here. I really appreciate the long-term perspective, as Commissioner Diaz mentioned. In the spirit of collaboration, can you talk a little bit about PFAS and the work that your office is doing, both as your office and then in collaboration with others, as you look at PFAS in those drains across the county?
I'm not active in the PFAS other than through the Department of Public Works. We have to do outfall water quality testing. We work with Elgro on that. So we test for that on our outlets from our ponds and so forth. Every 5 years, we have to go through that. And so we watch it from that point. When we do water quality testing in a stream, in a drain, that's being looked at, but it's not done as an asset management type of thing. Eagle pretty much covers that. So I don't want to, I'd rather work as a partner with them. Yes, they oversee, make sure we do things right, but they've also been a partner in the sense that we can bring our points of view forward, go out and have the conversation and come up with a much better solution than we otherwise would have. So they kind of follow that on a closer detail than I do.
Great. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Commissioner Antor.
Thank you, Chair. Morning, Ken.
Good
This is
morning.
where on that, one of the last slides you showed, I think it was over by our clerk's home. Do you declare like eminent domain in a situation like that, or do you avoid that?
I avoid it, but in this case, I had 45 easements get signatures. I had 8 that held out. And it's at the point that I couldn't ignore that, but I'm also been ordered by the committee to do this project. And the drain code has given the districts that I have to oversee the authority as a corporation would have. So the district can sue, it can be sued, it can buy land, it can sell land, just like a corporation. And when I'm given the order to carry on a project, by law, I'm required to do it. And so I have those tools to work with to get it done. Now that's last resort. I've gone to, in Sparta, I had 45 signatures I've received, not one court case. Right now I'm working on Lamberton Creek. I had 91. I'm down to 8. We're in that process. Are we going to go all the way? I doubt it. I think we get through the first step. I think the people will step up. Several of them have just this week. I've got signatures on easements, but it gets to the point they have to work with the attorney. I make my attempts, and first, because I don't charge my time. I can't charge my time to the district on these projects. So I do all the signatures on easements. And then Bowen Township, we had 35. And then we had Emmons Lake, I had 50. And I had no court cases on Emmons either. So most of the time, if I go out and talk with the people, we can work through it to a settlement. 99% of the time. But there's always those few that just are going to make it rough on everybody. So then I have to use that tool.
You don't look like Aaron Brockovich, but I can see you out there getting signatures at all. So thanks
Oh,
for.
yeah, you know, the people in Kent County, we're blessed. I'm blessed to serve them because they're good people. They are. It's a great group of people from all ends of this county. I work with them all, and they get excited when good things happen, and they get very supportive. And to have farmers up in Sparta give me acres of land for easement, that is just unheard of. And the township supervisor, Dale, he was just blown away when I come back with all these easements. You know, it's been fun. And to see the outcome is going to be pretty cool.
It's all because no one wants to deal with attorneys. Is that what you're saying? So, Commissioner Bojack.
You said it.
Thank you, Chair. And Ken, thank you for all you're doing. Sounds like a third of all your projects are in my district. I appreciate, all you're doing to help down in the southeast corner of the county. Just one quick question. Putting a bridge in on Cherry Valley and raising the road up, that sounds like a significant project. When will that start? And how long will it take? Building a bridge sounds like a long time.
Well, it's a precast bridge, so it's not, or it's a quicker. You call it a bridge because of its size. You call it a box culvert, but under Eagle standards, it becomes inspected as a bridge when you get over a certain size. So, yes, and this is a partnership where part of its drain, because it's part of the drain project, it eliminates a lot of the permits that have to be pulled because of the agreements I have with Eagle that there's things we can do without permitting. And a lot of this falls under that. So the road commission then delegates it to us. They pay for it. We put it in. And that's, in this case, what's happening here. We do a lot of that with MDOT as well across the company. It's going to be in the spring. It'll be about April. It'll start. And then after this is done, then it's going to be closed again because the road commission will be doing the intersection of 84th and Cherry Valley.
Commissioner Oliver. I'm sorry. Commissioner Oliver King.
I'm sorry. I just find your job to be fascinating.
Sometimes.
Oh my God.
Thank
Just
you,
like,
Lisa.
I'm able to go and talk to people. I learned about lakes and here's what's going on with dams. And,
Yeah.
wow. So if I recall correctly, and I'm just curious about this, I remember you reporting out that you are responsible by law keeping lakes at a certain level.
Yeah.
How does this conversation tie into that? And are you dealing with are the beavers okay now? Or, if you don't want to talk about the beavers, I understand it can be a little bit of a sensitive issue, so we don't have to do that. But I'm just wondering, how does that tie into what you had shared?
The beaver population is healthy. To continue to manage that population. The lake levels, we went through all our lake level petitions and language, and we fixed the ones that were very vague or very precise in how we had to monitor that lake level, because there was a Supreme Court ruling that said we had to follow that agreement by the letter of the law. So if they said we shall keep that lake level at that point, but we don't have a way to fill the lake when it gets low, then they could sue us or you, because they're your lake levels. So I went through all those lake levels and made sure that that language was flexible. And that's all been done. We're done with that. So we're good on that end. And then it's up to the property owners if they want to pay for a well or if they don't want to pay for a well. It's their call. Yeah.
All right. No one else? Thank you. I agree with the commissioner. I think one of these days we'll have a Ken Yonker reality TV show. So
I'll write a book.
Thank you for everything that you do. All right. Next item is public comment. If there's anyone here that wishes to address the board with respect to agenda items only at this time, you may do so now. And if you will identify yourself, your name, and your address and the item you wish to address. And I do have a request for a joint presentation. I'll deal that with after this.
Am I involved in that?
You are not.
Good morning. Thank you, Chairman Steck, commissioners and staff, and fellow citizens. Again, my name is Daniel Scott, longtime resident of the county. I live near the zoo, not in the zoo, but near the zoo. But again, my real identity is I'm a follower of the Lord Jesus Christ. Thank you, Monica, for that invocation. Very appropriate. By the way, your name means advisor. So I think it applies to what you're doing here. And if you can hear me, thank you, Pastor Tom, for that beautiful rendition of Amazing Grace. Amazing Grace indeed comes from the Lord. And if I could really quickly, thank you, Mrs. Lyons, for overseeing the recent elections. As far as I can tell, it was fair and legal. I want to address agenda item 1, full-time outreach worker position for Wise Women program. Just want to read from this, what I got off the internet real quick. The health department has been awarded $90,000 plus from MDHHS to implement the Wise Women program in Kent County. This program provides funding for an outreach worker position to connect Wise Women clients to healthcare providers, etc. I would appeal to you that this program would not refer any women carrying a child to have that baby murdered in the womb or outside of the womb. If you do so knowingly, you, according to the scriptures, are an accomplice to murder. Next paragraph. Cardiovascular disease is the number one cause of death in women in Michigan over the age of 25. I looked that up, and in Kent County, there was 55 known deaths for that cause in Kent County in 2023. However, that pales in the number of causes of death of all females of all ages in Kent County. And of course, I'm referring to abortion, murder in the womb. According to the MDHHS, in 2023, and I think it's higher than this, but they list on their website over 1,400 that we know of, babies murdered in Kent County alone in 2023. Planned Parenthood, Corewell Health, etc. By the way, the benefit or the other results from having a baby murdered, this is from the Journal of National Cancer Institute. 40 to 50% of women that have a baby murdered in their womb
Thank you.
have breast cancer. Breast cancer is a result.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay. Good morning. Let me make a comment here before I turn it back over to you, because we have with us today Mayor Vanderwood from Wyoming. Welcome Mayor Bliss from Grand Rapids, Mayor Carey from Walker, and of course you, Mary Kepley from Kentwood. Under our rules, standing rules 3.4E, a request may be made to consolidate presentations into a singular time, and that request has been made, so I've granted that request. So instead of taking comments from all of those individuals and others, I granted them that right to do so, not to exceed 15 minutes.
Thank you so much, County Commissioners, County Chair, for the opportunity to address you today. I might be 9 minutes and 12 seconds, not 15, so we'll see. My name is Stephen Kepley. I'm the mayor for the city of Kentwood and also the city administrator. As was mentioned, I'm here with several of my mayoral colleagues, including Mayor Bliss, Mayor Carey, and Mayor Vanderwood. This morning, I will give some insight and thought into your decision for county-wide flow control, or what we call rate equity for municipal solid waste, MSW, which you probably already know does not include recycling, construction debris, and industrial waste. My personal journey, trash journey, shall I say, started many years ago. I received a call from a former Kent County chair asking if I would use my engineering experiences and knowledge to help solve Kent County's waste management handling for the future. I accepted, and I reached out to DAR, who graciously sent to me a stack of reports and documents which began my personal journey. Since that first introduction, I have served on numerous county boards, including the Sustainable Business Park Stakeholder Advisory Group, the Kent County Waste to Energy Facility Advisory Committee, and the current Materials Management Planning Committee. I truly know and actually have come to enjoy trash talk. Thank you for laughing. As an engineer, I might not be funny, but as an engineer, I love solving problems. Just love it. And have enjoyed the challenge of understanding the data, the business model, and the intrinsic complications of waste management, especially given, and this is important, that Kent County has existing infrastructure that residents have invested in for decades. That's important. My comments are an attempt to give you the Metro 6's perspective on the matter before you. In 1985, the Metro 6 cities worked with Kent County to implement a solution that would burn our municipal solid waste, creating electrical power for our residents, with the byproduct being an inert material that could be safely buried in a landfill. The waste to energy project would also delay the need for additional landfills and thus additional legacy costs and liability for Kent County, thus saving money for all Kent County residents. A 40-year agreement was signed by Metro 6 cities for the construction and operation of that facility. That contract ends on December 31st, 2025. The waste to energy business model and plan was self-sustaining and not subsidized by any other Kent County funding source until 2021, when Kent County Commission voted, which I will discuss later in my comments. Commissioners, I want you to know that the 6 cities are incredibly supportive of Kent County's Reimagine Waste, with the main concept of increasing diversion from our landfills. We are very supportive of increasing the tonnage of recycling materials and looking at alternative methods to reuse our waste. Kent County has been, and I trust will continue to be, a community that brings innovation to the marketplace. Why not municipal solid waste? In March of 2019, the Metro 6 cities sent a 6-page memo to the county. In the document, it states, the 6 cities believe a collaborative, problem-solving approach is required to holistically review and address the future waste and recycling needs for all of Kent County. It also says the 6 cities stand ready to work with all Kent County stakeholders to lead a discovery effort and chart a new course for all county waste and recycling needs. We identified 5 core areas that should be collectively evaluated to achieve a countywide solution: governance and equity, waste to energy facility, the sustainable business park, North Kent and South Kent waste and recycling centers, and the recycling education center. In October 2021, the 6 cities wrote another joint letter to discuss our concern about the county increasing the tipping fee by 45% for the waste to energy facility. The rate would go up from $55 to $80 per ton due to the need for $42 million for waste to energy facility improvements. The Waste to Energy Facility Advisory Board recommended a $5 per ton increase and shared their opinion to the Kent County Board of Commissioners in that October 2021 letter. Being members of the Waste to Energy Facility Advisory Committee, James Hurt from the City of Grand Rapids and I authored the letter with input from other Metro city managers and mayors. Our main concern was the amount of fee increase, the timing, and the issue of rate equity for our residents. Kent County was considering the waste to energy to be one leg of a 3-legged stool in their Reimagine Waste program. With the contract ending in 2025 and the $42 million of improvements that would keep the facility operational way past the contract ending date, should not the entire county contribute to the improvements? And that was one of our main points. James Hurt and I knew that certain improvements were required as soon as possible and could be paid for by waste to energy fund balance, while others could be delayed until the sustainable business park details could be finalized. Kent County's decision approved a $75 per ton tipping fee while subsidizing only $5 per ton from another fund. Since that meeting in October 2021, many things have transpired. The Sustainable Business Park Stakeholder Advisory Group was formed and spent somewhere between 18 to 24 months painstakingly reviewing a massive amount of studies and data in detail. I applaud our County Administrator Al Vanderberg for his leadership with this advisory group. He did an excellent job, and we spent a lot of time in that period of time. We did not have one meeting per month, and it was a lot of detail. And I really want to thank you, Al, for your leadership. I mean, the trust built and what we got done was magnificent, so thank you. A consensus recommendation addressing many different areas of concern was submitted, including rate equity and governance. Commissioners, a decision before you today is to make the rates equitable throughout Kent County for the future of the waste-to-energy facility and the entire system. You are already aware that the waste-to-energy facility is not sustainable to operate on a market rate tipping fee. It is my opinion and of others that Kent County Commission made the decision for flow control when they invested the $42 million, which was paid for by the residents of the 6 cities. If that facility becomes decommissioned or sold due to the failure of a successful business model, I would bet that the 6 cities will be seeking to fairly be compensated for the value and investment of that facility. It is also my opinion that the timing is now to make the decision. There is nothing that can be done to solve the waste-to-energy problem except flow control. If there was a solution, the Sustainable Business Stakeholder Advisory Group, spending close to 24 months of intense study and dialogue, would have come up with it, and we could not. Believe me, that was my main goal. How can you support the waste-to-energy without flow control? You cannot. And when you made that decision to spend $42 million, you made a decision for flow control because that's the only way you can operate it. Make the decision now. County commissioners, the other mayors, and I know what you're experiencing. We've been there. Tough decisions are just that, they're tough. You have a tough job. I do sympathize with you. I understand what it is, been there, done that. Just know that I respect your individual decisions. I do. No matter how you vote, I respect it. We want to work with you to find out how we can manage waste in the future. But no, there is no other solution besides rate equity to keep our investments functioning as designed for all of Kent County residents. With that, I know myself and the other mayors, we're already double booked this morning. I have lots of other meetings this morning. I'm going to stay as long as I can, and I know myself and the other mayors have to leave. But thank you so much for your time. Maybe I went 9 minutes and 20 seconds. Anybody time it?
Wow. That
9
you,
minutes 40.
What was it?
9 minutes 40.
Okay, thank you very much.
DeAndre Jones is the only one better at that than you. All right, thank you. Anyone else for a public comment on agenda items only at this time? Good morning.
Good morning. My name
You
is
have up
Carrie.
to 3 minutes.
Okay. I will try not to even use all 3. My name is Carrie Bliss. I lead sustainability for Padness. We're a large industrial recycler based here in West Michigan. We've been here since 1905. And to give you a little bit of context, last year we were able to recycle 4.9 billion pounds of material. Just to give you a little bit of level set that I do know a little bit about what I'm talking about. So my main concerns, this is in reference to the amendment on the solid waste that Mayor Kepley so elegantly just spoke about. And while I respect his position, and I certainly respect the work that DAR has done around this issue, there is a newly formed Materials Management Planning Committee that just met for the first time last week. And I believe that this committee has an opportunity to do something very unique for the county. And we have not been given adequate time to be able to put that plan together. So I am just asking for a pause, a delay in making a decision today. Give us a few months to be able to work through this. I have created 36 different circular economy solutions that make money for both the customers and for the community. I think that we can bring some of these to light. There is new technology being implemented every day, things that weren't available or able to be reviewed at the last time that the planning committee for the Sustainable Business Park got together. So please just give us some time. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you. We don't take questions during.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning, Chair and Commissioners. My name is Andy Johnston, Senior Vice President of your Grand Rapids Chamber. The holidays are upon us. Please spend tons of money with your local businesses. I want to speak to two items. One, thank you for your support, hopefully, of the Welcome Plan Communication Specialist, making that a full-time position. That's really important work. I'm also here to talk trash as well and the flow control ordinance. As we outlined in our letter, the Chamber is really appreciative of the opportunity to serve on the advisory committee. We're very supportive of the goal of moving towards a more sustainable county. However, like Carrie, we ask you to postpone today's vote on flow control. We think there are other options outside of mandates. We have expressed and continue to express our concern over the flow control ordinance and that we are missing an opportunity to explore a wide range of market-driven and cost-effective possibilities. As Carrie mentioned, there's been a lot of changes in technology since this process has started and in the regulatory environment, including with the materials management plan. That committee is going to bring together cross-sector expertise to address the challenges of reducing landfilling and increasing recycling. We encourage the Commission to postpone this vote until the MMP committee has had the opportunity to present their proposed solutions. You have time, and we encourage you to evaluate all the alternatives and be inclusive of industry experts in evaluating those policies. The Chamber is willing to step up and support and contract a third party to review all the different potential pathways and alternatives that may exist. If the decisions are made prior to the MMP's committee's recommendations, we urge the county to maintain flexibility to adapt the best identified alternatives going forward. Again, we share the same goals. We want the same things. And as Mayor Kepley said, we're going to respect your vote, however it may be. But we need to really assess all the alternatives, allow the MMP to do their job, engage the industry, and to make the best decision. Again, we hope you'll postpone today's vote. And either way, we remain committed to staying engaged with the industry, the broader business community, and the county to find all the optimal solutions possible to drive that sustainable future forward for Kent County. Thank you so much for your consideration.
Thank you, Andy. Anyone else? Yep. Good morning.
Morning, Chair Stack and Commissioners. I am Russ Boersma with Aero Waste. We are a local waste hauling company out of Jenison that services most of Kent County and the Tri-County area. I'm here today to talk about expanding flow control. This vote to expand flow control does not ensure any more landfill diversion. The plan, the DPW, only creates a transfer station. Expanded flow control to a transfer station will have trash coming in the front door and leaving out the back door bound for a landfill. The problem that we've been hearing is that 6 cities are tired of paying more for disposal than the rest of the county. So the solution is that everybody pays more for disposal. I certainly can see why commissioners outside the flow control area are questioning this and hesitant to sign on for expanded flow control, since there's not a plan right now for further diversion of waste. I've heard the DPW also say that private industry is not stepping up to invest or build in diversion facilities within the county. And I can tell you, as a private business, the reason for this is mandates like flow control. And how can we invest in Kent County when mandates like flow control exist and the county is willing to expand to get more flow control? The ordinance to expand flow control for the entire county does not create new diversion facilities or spark any new innovations in recycling efforts. It just ensures that the county will control all the waste and set the disposal rate. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Anyone else? Good morning.
Good morning. Morning, Chair Steck, County Commissioners, and Administrator Vanderberg. My name is Tom Mahoney. I'm General Manager of Republic Services. I've had the opportunity to serve Kent County as a member of the Solid Waste Planning Committee, the Sustainable Business Park Advisory Group, and now as a member of the Materials Management Planning Committee. I'm here this morning in opposition of the proposed amendment to the Solid Waste Management Ordinance. It is true that the Metro 6 cities do pay higher disposal rates, but asking the rest of the county residents, commercial and industrial businesses to pay up to $8 to $10 million a year without vetting all possible solutions is not the right answer. The county's Material Management Planning Committee had our first meeting last week. The committee was formed to implement a plan that will focus on sustainable material management. Technology continues to evolve, as you heard earlier. An example of that is Republic Services Polymer Center, which a year ago was not in existence in the United States. Right now, prior to our Polymer Center, a plastic bottle could be recycled one time. We now have the technology and we have it in place where a plastic bottle can be recycled up to 7 times. This is something that was not in the works a year or two ago, and it's just an example of continuing evolution of recycling and sustainability. The county and the recycling and waste industry have always had a strong working relationship. We've been able to find mutually acceptable solutions to different challenges that the county has had over the past several years. An example of that is the solid waste surcharge that we worked together on in 2015, was implemented in 2016, and is still in existence to this date. Today, I'm here asking you to allow the industry and the county to continue to working on alternative solutions to solve the challenge that the county has with the Metro 6 agreements that are expiring next December. I think we owe it to the residents and businesses we service and represent to exhaust all options before passing through cost increases to them. Thank you for your time. Appreciate your listening to me.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. Fred Sawyers, Morris Avenue, Grand Rapids. I'm here in my role as area manager for waste management today. Just speak to the commission. Chairman Stack, the rest of the board, thank you for allowing that opportunity. This is a complex situation and decision. I wish you luck in making the right one. I know that this process has been going on for a long time, and I appreciate both the board and the Board of Public Works for their openness and having these conversations and listening to not only the public but the industry, and it's been a good process to be part of. It is a complex situation. I think I understand somewhat from all sides really how it affects, whether it's the financial implications on the county or the 6 communities or even the surrounding rural areas. It's hard to really understand how that effect is going to transpire as it propagates across the county. I have my own personal mixed feelings about it, but as representative of waste management and of the industry, we're really here to speak about how it affects our business, both on our customers and the investments that we make on it. We are opposed to open free markets. Did I say we were opposed? We welcome. We're opposed to flow control. We welcome free and open markets. It really helps make decisions on our investments. There are flow control markets, not only like Kent County, but across the state. We don't have a policy that we don't participate in those markets, but for whatever reason, our investments tend to be less drawn to those markets. We're in the process of developing I'm estimating a $75,000 single stream recycling facility in the state to manage our volumes and future volumes as we anticipate those. And decisions like those impact how we manage the materials that we manage for our customers. So I just ask you think about that, how it affects not only industry and customers, but also it really is setting up. We're talking about the doing this for rate equity for the burner, and I'm, as a city resident, I'm supportive of that. But it is also making a decision for long-term investments on the county. We're bringing all of these volumes in and putting it on the county to manage those volumes, not only today under rate equity, but how are we going to manage them in the future? What's the next board going to have to make as far as those future investments? Similar to 40 years ago, we made a decision to invest in the waste to energy facility. What's next, and how is that going to impact the county in future decisions? Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Anyone else? I don't see any other public comment, so we will close public comment at this point, and I will move to item number 7, which is the consent agenda, and I will call on Commissioner Sparks.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to move a consent agenda for today's date.
Thank you. Is there support? Support by someone over here. Commissioner Wooden. I just didn't want to call you Commissioner Burrell. That would be offensive. All right. Questions, comments? If not, this is a roll call, Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On the motion to adopt the consent agenda, Commissioners Bujak, Diaz, Pekla,
Yes.
Wooden,
Yes.
Baker, LeGrand, Oliver King, Hennessy, McLeod,
Yes.
Sparks, Teal, Breavy, Coleman, Burrow,
Yes.
Ponstein, Hildenbrand, DeBoer, Merchant, Antor, Vice Chair Green, Chair Steck.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, you have 20 yeas, 0 nays. The motion passes. The consent agenda is adopted.
Thank you. We'll now move to our resolutions for today, starting with 8A, and I will call on Commissioner Packlet.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's my pleasure to move Resolution 119 of today's date, the Employee Business Expense Policy from the Administrator's Office.
Thank you. Is there support? Supported by Commissioner Bujak. Questions or comments on this one? Commissioner Ponstein.
Thank you, Chair Steck. Not so much a comment, but a question. I think I've asked this before at the other meetings too. So these employee expense policy, we want to encourage employees to go out, attend conferences, take courses to improve their work. Is this policy going to encourage people to do more of this or less of it? Because when I look at a 3-page document of what you can and can't do, sometimes it's just, I don't want to go through that hassle.
So this document doesn't change much materially from what we have. It is part of our program that we started a couple years ago to get county policy back on a 2-year rhythm of making sure they're up to date. And so you'll be seeing a lot of policies. In the procedures part, which the administration oversees, we do plan, as soon as the technology will allow us, hopefully around January 1st, we've been going through a system upgrade to go to a per diem. And I think most people will appreciate a per diem policy, again, based on IRS standards, instead of the current scrapbook model that we use after people go to conferences. And I think that will be an encouragement to travel, I think.
Anyone else? I don't see any other comments, questions, so this is a voice vote. All those that support the motion, please say yes.
Yes.
Those that oppose, please say no. It is approved. For our next item, I will call on Vice Chair Green.
Thank you, Chair Steck. In Commissioner DeBoer's absence and on her behalf, I move Resolution 120 of today's date, the de minimis policy from the Administrator's offices.
Is there support? Supported by Commissioner Burrell. I'm not sure you can act on behalf of another commissioner, but questions or comments on this one? Commissioner Ponstein.
Thank you, Chair Steck. So kind of the same line of questioning as my previous comments, but here we are. I think only the IRS would come up with a name like this for a policy, but recently read an article where there's over 800 IRS agents right now with a debt to the government for not paying their taxes yet of $4 million. And yet we rely on them to then make policies up, which once again, I would say would, stop people from traveling and going to conferences and other things like that to improve themselves as employee I mean, where does this document that fits into the document that we just did, and what are the ramifications? I mean, if this is an IRS policy and they violate it, do we go after them or does the IRS go after them?
This is more intended to be at the organizational level. For example, I think what sparked my thinking on this was it's very common for employers to have an employee recognition program where you recognize years of service in increments of 5. So you're allowed to choose a gift out of a catalog after 5 years of service, 10, 15, 20, 25. And Kent County basically stopped that practice during the Great Recession. And what I found when we did all the Disney Way training, and part of that training was me on the hot seat with 2 other department heads, just kind of answering whatever questions employees came up with. The most commonly answered question was, are you ever going to bring that back? And so the budget this year did include bringing that back, but that type of thing does confer a gift to an employee for their increment of service, and appropriately should be managed under this sort of policy. Previous employers that I've had this policy. I think here, for whatever reason, it just fell under the radar and we haven't had that. Another example would be where we just send a floral display when an employee dies while working for the county. We've had 2 pass while working with the county since I've been here, the last 3+ years. And again, to do that appropriately under IRS law, we would have this policy in order to be able to do that legitimately. So it's more of that type of thing and kind of catching us up, but also providing some flexibility, you know, as we look and be in a very difficult recruiting environment, retention, that sort of thing. So yeah.
So if you receive a gift, the IRS could look at it as income, and if you don't claim it, you would face.
Technically, you're right. And so it's considered, if we put it in the de minimis, we can consider it an employee benefit. So employees are entitled as a benefit to get the 5-year gift. So that's what it does. It makes it legitimate that way.
All right. Any other question, Commissioner Antwer?
Thank you, Chair. Back when I first started, and Carol, you were here, and Stan, you used the example of a floral gift when people pass away. That used to be taken right out of our paycheck. It showed up on there, and I haven't looked at a paycheck in a long time because they get directly deposited. Does that still happen?
The commissioners do contribute to a floral fund that helps pay for snacks and coffee and that type of thing.
That would include like a floral arrangement for
a whole number of other kinds of situations. We're focusing in on an actual employee who would die on the job, but under your fund, you could send that to a wider range because you're paying for that.
Okay, thank you.
Like sending the chair to Bahamas or something. Anyone else? If not, this is a voice vote. All those that support the motion, please say yes.
Yes.
Those opposed, say no. It is approved. All right, for the next item, I will call in Commissioner Hennessy.
Thank you. I move the resolution to approve the Kent County purchase of development rights, the selection criteria, and its continuation for 2025, 2026, and 2027.
Thank you. Is there support? Support. By Commissioner LeGrand. Questions or comments? Okay. If none, this is a voice vote. All those in favor of the motion, please say yes.
Yes.
Those opposed, please say no.
No.
It is approved. All right, for the next one, I will call on Commissioner Diaz.
Thank you, Chair. I move resolution 122 of today's date, convert one temporary part-time welcome plan communications specialist position to regular full-time employment status, coming to us from the administrator's office.
Thank you. Is there support? Supported by Commissioner Pakla. Questions or comments on this one? I see none. This too is a voice vote. All those that support the motion, please say yes.
Yes.
That oppose, say no. It is approved. All right, for our next one, I will call on Commissioner Pakla.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's my pleasure to move Resolution 123 of today's date, the amendment to the Solid Waste Management Ordinance, coming to us from the Department of Public Works.
Support.
Support? I heard support. Commissioner Diaz. All right. Questions or comments on this one?
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Coleman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move to refer this resolution back to the Legislative and Human Resources Committee so that we comply with Standing Rule 3.10B.
A motion is made to, what was it called?
Refer it back to the Legislative and Human Resources Committee.
And that was supported. So, by Commissioner Merchant. So, thank you, Commissioner, for giving me a heads up that this was coming. So I did have an opportunity to go back over the rules, the standing rules, and to consult on this. The Rule 310, which I think is the one that you are relying upon, is a rule under the section of our standing rules that applies to board action and not to the standing rules. The Standing Rule Committee is the next one, which does not have that particular subsection in it. So it's my ruling as chair that Rule 310 does not apply in this situation. Therefore, there is no basis to remove or refer back. But I would also say that even if it did apply to the actions of a standing committee, it's clearly a procedural right, not a substantive right. Procedural rights need to be asserted at the time that they arise, otherwise they're deemed waived. In this case, that particular right, if it existed, would have to have been raised by one of the members of that committee, the LHR. It was not. They went ahead and all voted on that without raising it, so whatever objections may have been entitled have been waived. So I'm going to rule that your motion is out of order.
Mr. Chairman, I don't know the exact procedural step.
Challenge the ruling of the chair. Is that what you're doing?
Thank you. I'd like to challenge the ruling of the chair.
Under Rule 3.14, when there is an appeal taken or challenge taken of the decision of the chair, the member who is taking that must be allowed to state his or her reason. So will you please state briefly your reason for challenging my ruling?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think that, so I noticed reviewing the packet for today's meeting on Tuesday that the substantive details of the actual change to the ordinance weren't in there. So I requested of staff to get those details, which I appreciate we did receive late yesterday morning. So I think that the spirit of our standing rules, 3.10 in particular, is that especially when we're changing what's in effect our legislative powers to change an ordinance, that does in 5.1 of our standing rules does go through the Legislative and Human Resources Committee, so I think that's proper. But to vote on the amendment to the ordinance, I think it's appropriate that the rule states that amendment should actually be presented to the Legislative and Human Resources Committee. And since it wasn't, I think that it makes sense to follow the spirit of that rule and have the Legislative and Human Resources Committee actually consider the amendment to the ordinance in its actual specific changes.
And again, my position in defense of the ruling is that the ordinance was clearly out there. That draft has been available to us for frankly over a year. And I'm sure other commissioners had reviewed it. I don't know whether the members of the LHR actually reviewed it before they voted. They may or they may not have. My point is that Rule 310, if it does apply, is a procedural right. And if they thought they did not have access to that and they needed access to that in order to vote, they should have asserted that as an objection or as a request going into the meeting or at the time of the meeting. I attended that meeting as an observer and know that no one raised that issue during the course of the meeting. So again, my position is you can't sit back and not object, let the meeting go on, have the vote taken, and then after the fact, raise an objection. It is a procedural right that if there was a concern, it should have been raised at the time of the meeting. It was not raised, and therefore it's a classic waiver of a procedural right. This is otherwise debatable, so if there is anyone else who wishes to address the challenge or appeal of my ruling. Commissioner Diaz.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to thank the members of the public, the Metro 6 mayors, and anybody else watching for being here, for giving public comment. I want to thank my colleague, Commissioner Coleman, for his
Let me just clarify, the only issue that's being debated is the appeal of my ruling.
Yes.
At this point.
Yes. I am one of those commissioners who was on the Legislative and Human Resources Committee. If I'm understanding the argument correctly, it is that those of us who were on that committee were not aware of what we were doing. I reject the premise. I reject the notion. I urge my colleagues to vote in favor of sustaining the ruling of the chair, to reject any other attempts to slow down these resolutions, and to vote in favor of passing them. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions on the current motion appealing my ruling? Mr. Packlet.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Also, as a member of the Legislative and Human Resources Committee, I feel it's worthwhile to note that we received the first copy of that agenda on November the 11th, so it's been 10 days since we first got that. If a commissioner had a concern about that, they have had ample amounts of time to request that ordinance be brought to them. So I urge folks to also vote to sustain the ruling of the chair.
Thank you. Anyone else? Commissioner Antor.
Thank you, Chair Stack. I support the motion to send this back to LHR. It doesn't matter how we missed it or why we missed it. Willful ignorance, I don't know what it was. Lack of transparency is kind of bubbling up here. I can't believe it'd be unanimous at the LHR if they knew all the facts. And I guess what I'm curious about during our orientation meetings regarding this topic, were those, I'm assuming those were publicly noticed, just like LHR meetings would be, the subcommittees that looked at the details, were those publicly noticed?
Which committee meetings?
Oh, when we had the orientations about waste management. I can't remember.
If you're talking about info section, no, those are not public meetings, so those are not publicly noticed. Work sessions are. We did have
Okay.
back on Plan A, we had multiple work sessions, which would have been publicly noticed. This
That would
time
be- that
around,
would
we
be
also
my-
had one.
Okay, that would be my question, if those were publicly noticed. Thank you. I'm still gonna support the motion, because we do have some time, I think, on this to go back, and if you have to rubber stamp it, at least I feel like they're getting all the information, because they're gonna have the opportunity to dig into what Matt brought up, so, thank you.
All right. Any other comments on the motion or appeal of my ruling? If not, there are two over here. Mr. Wooden, sorry.
Just for procedural clarity's sake, a yes vote is to sustain, a no, or is a yes vote to appeal?
It is appealed, so I can go either way on that. I will simply identify that a yes vote on this would be to affirm the ruling of the chair. A no vote would be to overturn a ruling of the chair.
So, given Commissioner Coleman made the appeal, assuming Commissioner Coleman's mind has not been changed, he would be voting no.
That's correct.
Thank you.
He may vote yes, however, if he wishes. All right, anyone else? Hold on. Robert's Rules 24.3. I'm afraid a member is not allowed to speak more than once on a motion appealing the ruling of a chair. Thank you for the opportunity to use that Robert's rule. All right. Anyone else? If not, this is a voice vote. So. Oh, was there a request for roll call? I will do a roll call. It'll be easier than counting yeses and nos in my head. So again, if you'll take the roll call, I will clarify that my ruling has been appealed. And so if you wish to vote to approve and uphold my ruling, you say yes. If you wish to vote to overturn my ruling, you say no. Okay. Is that
Thank
clear to
you.
everyone? All right.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. To uphold the ruling of the chair, Commissioners Bujak, Diaz,
Yes.
Pakla,
Yes.
Wooden,
Yes.
Baker, LeGrand, Oliver King, Hennessy,
Yes.
McLeod,
Yes.
Sparks, Teal, Breavy,
Yes.
Coleman,
No.
Burl,
Yes.
Ponstein, Hildenbrand, DeBoer, Merchant, Antor, Vice Chair Green,
Yes.
Chair Steck.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, you have 15 yeas, 5 nays. The ruling is affirmed.
Thank you. Then we will move back into debate or comments or questions with respect to the underlying motion, which is to approve Resolution 8E. Now, Commissioner Diaz.
Thank you, Chair. I'll keep it short. Again, I'd like to thank the members of the public, the Metro 6 mayors for giving their comments. This is a big vote, and I think it's important to take input from the people who will be affected. I agree with Mayor Kepley in that this is a tough vote, but I always judge any vote that I take based off of what I believe to be the right thing. And I believe voting in favor of these resolutions is the right thing to do. I do not base my decisions on what's good for the market. I base it on what's good for the environment, what's good for the generations that we are passing that environment to. I am unburdened by what has been, and I'm ready to change the system. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Hildebrand.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I continue to struggle with this issue. I think we've got a lot of missed opportunities before us. And I appreciate all the work that's gone into this and all the committees that people have served on in the past and all of that. And I get all of that. And, you know, the Metro 6 cities, I think, have a vested interest in the proposal before us. One of the struggles I have is that oftentimes the people that live in the 6 cities, their interests don't always align with the people that live in the rural parts of the county. And I think this is an example of one of them. The rate equity doesn't work because cost equity isn't in place. I mean, we all know it's more expensive to do business when it comes to trash hauling in the rural areas of our county. There's less density, there's more miles, there's more time, there's more labor costs, more equipment costs. And so this concept of rate equity doesn't work in this situation. I know I've suggested several times about exempting the rural parts of the county in the flow control. I've asked for potentially phasing in to allow more time if we do go down this road of a countywide flow control, that we can potentially phase it in. I know there's some interest in doing that. I appreciate that. I prefer not to do a countywide flow control, but if we do, I would appreciate as this is implemented to look at a phased in approach for the rural parts of our county. I know a few people who testified talked about, you know, free markets, utilizing the experts in the industry. I think we can do a better job in pursuing public-private partnerships when it comes to this this issue. Trash processing and recycling is ever evolving. We have in our backyard national and international companies who compete on a global level in this area. I think we need to tap into that free market more, those experts, to look at how we can partner. I mean, we have a long track record of a county working in public-private partnerships. I think we've missed that opportunity with this industry, and I think we should spend some more time in 2025 working with the industry and developing those plans. I know I get laughed at a little bit when I say I feel this process has been rushed because people say we've been working on it for decades. Well, you know, we have to live in the moment today. We're all, some of us are relatively new board members. I haven't been working on trash issues for decades. You know, I've been working on it for months. And so I do think we need to take baby steps. I think the proposal before us is a very government-centered proposal and plan. While the private industry around this issue of trash management it's evolving daily. So I would suggest we take baby steps so we don't get too far in front in an overreaching sort of government proposed solution for this problem. I had just a couple questions about the ordinance itself. I know the process for, I don't understand the process for the rate setting. So I wish somebody could sort of explain that to me. In our orientations about this issue or briefings about it, they always use the $65 a ton as an example of what would be the flow control rate across the county. But then I was told that's not established. That's something to be discussed further down the road. So is the Department of Public Works Board going to pursue a $65 per ton rate across the county if this is approved as a countywide flow control? If so, where does that number come? Where would that number come from? How is that rate determined? What kind of revenue is generated, and what would be utilized with the revenue generated? Somebody could help me answer that.
Well, there's a lot there. Let's see if did you catch them all? Dar is here to address that. I think the question includes, you know, what's the process for setting rates and then the details that he requested.
Good morning, Chair Steck. Good morning, Commissioners, and thank you for the question. The Board of Public Works is responsible for setting the rates. On an annual basis, the DPW staff develops a budget based around the entire cost of our operation. That includes tip fees, revenues from energy sales, revenue from commodity sales, revenue from renewable energy credits, and then we also look at our expenses. And once that's lined out, we make a determination and a recommendation as staff to the Board of Public Works on what rate should be set for each facility to allow that facility to operate as an enterprise fund, since we don't receive general fund or other dollars to support our operation. The $65 rate was a pro forma proposal. We shot high, if you will, to ensure that we weren't suggesting that it might come in at a number and then be higher in the future. Certainly, rates ebb and flow. We've raised rates at the recycling center from time to time to cover the cost of that operation, but we've also raised and lowered rates at the waste energy facility from when the bonds were paid off. The rates dropped. When refurbishment was needed, rates increased. On average, when you look at our fleet of facilities, the increases of the rates over time have really tracked with inflation. Normally, it's about a 2% rate increase, but we don't typically change rates every year. So that's the long answer. The short answer is that the rate set by the Board of Public Works would be to cover the cost of operations. We expect it to be less than 65, but we built a pro forma in so that at least we could have the conversation with elected officials and stakeholders to have a better sense of comparison. Our rates today at the landfill are 55. The rates at the recycling center are 70. The rates at the landfill are 55. North Kent Transfer Station 55, and waste energy is 75. So as we
no longer take a look at those facility operations individually. Instead, we look at them holistically. We would set a rate that would support the entirety of the system. And that's where we're going to be coming in at that $55, $60, $65 rate. Again, we didn't want to get too far ahead of committees, too far ahead of this commission, but we did want to provide a pro forma estimate so that you had something to compare it against.
If I could, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, I think you had a few more questions.
Oh, a couple. So to that point, do you expect that the staff will recommend to the board to initiate a rate that would generate additional revenue for potential capital investments down the road that may not be known yet what those are? Kind of a capital fund, if you will.
Can I clarify the question by the board? You mean the DPW board?
Yes.
We would look at a rate increase if we were to make a recommendation to support the bond to fund the cost of building a facility. For example, when the waste energy facility was constructed, we recommended, and the Board of Public Works set a rate at that time to support that operation, including debt service. When the debt was paid off, we recommended a rate that was less than what had been charged, and we reduced, I think, it by, I want to say it's $15, but don't quote me on that. It was a substantial amount. When we went into capital refurbishment for that waste energy facility, we recommended a rate increase to be able to fund the 5-year refurbishment. The recycling center, when it was constructed, the rates were set with an understanding that we would be supporting that operation off landfill tip fees and tipping fees to support that facility. So again, rates were built around what it would cost to both fund the construction of and then the ongoing operation. For example, the county has $4.9 million in general obligation bonds still to pay down over the next 5 years at the recycling center to pay for the 2010 construction. So rates do ebb and flow based on debt service, based on O&M.
Thank you.
If I just wanted to clarify that the Board of Public Works would be the ultimate decision maker on those rates. Under the current system, the Department of Public Works board has 5 county commissioners on it. I think under the new proposal, it would go to 4 county commissioners.
I noticed in the proposed ordinance, the penalty for violation doubled from a maximum of $2,500 to $5,000 for violations. Can you explain the kind of thought process behind that?
There is a carrot and stick approach here. When the waste energy facility, which has successfully used flow control for nearly 40 years, early in the implementation of that process, I would suggest that there was a year or two where it was more difficult to bring everyone into compliance around delivering the feedstock, the municipal solid waste to that facility. Today, there's virtually no need for enforcement. Everyone has adjusted to and continues to flow material to that facility under the established ordinances and contracts. We never like to use the enforcement. We seldom do. I don't know. I can't think of I can't think of a time in the last 10 years, for example, that we've had to move enforcement at Waste Energy beyond a conversation or a letter. So yes, the enforcement is there. We typically don't use it. And in the past 10 years, we have not used it.
All right, thank you. Last one is, would a countywide flow control apply to an individual? So for instance, if an individual wanted to take some refuse to an out-of-state facility or out-of-county facility, would they be allowed to do so?
I think from a practical matter, not legal, from a practical matter, I think it would be difficult to try to regulate something like that. The fact of the matter is most residents don't deliver municipal solid waste directly to a landfill, mainly because the tipping fee at a landfill for an individual tends to be higher than if it is for a waste company that uses the facility every day. And if they're delivering there, they're often dealing with environmental conditions where mud, dust, everything else at a landfill, and they have to drive further. So where a resident can go to a county facility as is today, they are able to go to the scale house, they're directed where they need to tip. We give them opportunities for various recycling drop off on the way to where they tip their trash. They're tipping on concrete, it's safer and all the way around. It's usually a better environment for them. So I don't think on an individual basis, residents tend to do that.
Yeah, well, I would encourage us to be very clear about that. I'll use myself as an example. I live in Lowell Township. I live, the closest facility is in Ionia County. And as an individual, I have been there several times I tore a deck out. And so I brought the deck there and unloaded it there and paid the fee. I've, brought a old freezer there before because they have a process to get rid of a freezer. We should encourage individuals to be able to utilize whatever is most convenient for them, and not, if we do this countywide flow control, we shouldn't mandate individuals have to use county facilities as well. And I don't know if it's not clear in this ordinance, we should make it clear. I don't know if that's today or in the future. And I certainly wouldn't want an individual who unknowingly went to an out of county facility and then somehow got a violation penalty of up to $5,000.
So it's slightly nuanced. If I could explain, the deck that you described is construction and demolition debris, and it's not covered by the ordinance. So a resident could bring that to any facility that they choose. Most residents don't bring a couple of bags of trash to us because we have a minimum fee, I think in the mid 30s, for that minimum fee to go across the scale. So normally it's the freezer. Again, that is a white good. It's actually can be recycled. So it doesn't even fit in the profile of municipal solid waste. It's a white good, nor does the deck because it's construction demolition debris. Both of those fall outside the flow control and the ordinance.
Okay. Good, thank you.
All right, Commissioner Sparks.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm sorry about that. I've got the mayors on my mind. Thank you, Chair.
I don't know if that's a demotion or
Well, the reason I bring that up is because I represent 3 of the cities of the 6 mayors that were here today: Grand Rapids, Wyoming, and Kentwood. So I would be remiss to just throw aside, their thoughts and the way that they are trying to govern for the cities. So it brings me a pause, though, with this whole thing when we now bring in the chamber, who is graciously willing to help us through this process. I want to remind everyone we gave them, I believe, $75 million because we trusted them. Did we give them that much? I thought it was something like that through the CARES. So because we trusted them to help us with our business climate, we trusted them to help us along the way. And when I think of free enterprise, I'm for a free enterprise. I believe that, the people that are doing the work, doing the job that they've been doing for years successfully, until it's not successful, because we do need to make sure that we have, a place for our waste. Our environment is suffering, and we do have a time limit on this. Unfortunately, most people discard trash and they don't ever think about it again. Unfortunately, we need more people that are interested in recycling. And I believe if we could work together with the haulers, the recyclers, Carrie was here from Patnos, the chamber. I just have to question whether this vote today is still going to be over. It's not. Even with flow control, it's not going to be over. Will it be helpful? Yes, I believe that it will be helpful, but I don't think that it's going to solve all of our issues that we have. So I guess my question would be, could we still have continued conversations with the haulers, the recyclers, and with the chamber, even past this vote?
Since I was the one who put together the group that studied this for 2 years, let me go backwards and then forwards. We did have a member of one of the two biggest haulers on the group and the chamber. The chamber did convene several meetings of the haulers, which we did attend. And the committee dove into such great detail, and it was in the spirit of hearing whether there were any other options, any other solutions. We did consistently hear that that one was not one that folks liked, but there weren't other ideas that came forward in that 2 years of work. Going forward, I think as I see today's vote, and as you heard from Mayor Kepley, we're on a really short time frame with the 40-year agreement and renewing that. There's nothing that precludes the board and the DPW listening to recommendations that come from the MMP process and modifying that approach in the future. But today is kind of a stake in the sand, to make sure that we can move forward with the incinerator and with renewal, with keeping everybody on board so that that facility can continue to function.
Okay. So, I didn't see who was next, but perhaps you were Mr. Coleman, Commissioner Coleman?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So when I realized early this week that I hadn't done my due diligence to actually read the changes to the ordinance, I went looking for it, and I agree it's somewhat of a technicality, but I went looking and it wasn't in the packet for today. So I looked at the LHR meeting. It wasn't in the packet for LHR. I even looked back to the 2023 DPW minutes, and the actual amendment wasn't in there. So I apologize for kind of being late to the party to do that due diligence, but I do think it's important, and I think we ought to be transparent with the public on what specifically we're voting on, not just have the generalized summary, in a resolution. And that was the spirit of my previous motion. Since we're getting into the specifics now, having read through the actual amendment to the ordinance, one of the things that was added was a sentence: the management of solid waste is typically and traditionally a local government function and an exercise of local government police powers. And this is true in the sense, I imagine this language was added because I remember from a year or so ago, and maybe two, in researching this, seeing that there was a 2007 U.S. Supreme Court case that kind of established the legality of counties having a flow control ordinance. So I imagine this language was added for that reason. I'm just philosophically opposed to using government police powers to force people to have only certain options, and as a result only certain costs for their trash disposal, whether that's residential, whether that's our many hundreds of restaurants and the costs that they bear for their MSW. So that's my opinion. I do want to dive in and just get a clarification from the legal perspective. Having reviewed, I do have one major question about the amended language. So section 3.8, the municipal solid waste definition includes all the stuff, which includes household waste. 3.10 defines a person, and it's the typical list of a legal definition of a person, including things like sole proprietorship, partnership, association, business, et cetera, et cetera. But it also means an individual. And then as I continued to read, I saw 3.15 says, waste hauler, defines that. It says a waste hauler does not include 315.1 individuals, an individual or private citizen that transports his or her own solid waste. I was like, phew, that seems good. So I kept reading, and then I hit the actual added section that's effectively the flow control ordinance, section 8, and the section delivery says, after the compliance date, all persons, including waste haulers, shall deliver designated waste to a designated facility and pay the charged fee, and it shall be unlawful for any person or waste hauler to dispose of the designated waste, etc. So I continue. This causes me to be concerned yesterday as I'm reviewing this for the first time. So I continue, and I see this was not a change section, but due to the expanded nature of this ordinance with the amendments, the enforcement section in section 9 does say that each day that a violation exists constitutes a separate infraction. And the next section, 9.2, says that it increases the maximum penalty from $2,500 to $5,000 plus all costs of enforcement, including court costs and attorney's fees for each infraction. So my specific legal question is really centered around that it shall be unlawful for any person or waste hauler. That "or" is really the core of my concern. So with that definition, and person including individual, and MSW including household waste, am I correct to understand that? So living close to the South Kent landfill, I actually do fairly regularly transport stuff straight to the South Kent landfill. So I'm familiar with that process, and I get why most don't, because there's this baseline $30 fee to get in the door. But I also bring recycling there and everything, which is free, which I very much appreciate. So just with the legal parameters of this amended ordinance, once this is in effect, as an individual person, if I decide instead to drive to Autumn Hills, which is in Ottawa County, and basically as close to my house as the South Kent landfill, do I understand the legal ramifications properly, that as a person under this definition of the amended ordinance, that I would be in violation of this ordinance and subject to the up to $5,000 plus costs each day that I would do such an act?
I'm going to go ahead and have Dan DeWitt from Warner Norcross respond to that, because he's done all of the in-depth study on this and the drafting. So while I could answer it, he can give you a more complete answer.
Right. Thank you very much for having me here today. And I have been the draftsperson for But it's very broad and very general. But we were somewhat constrained and we had to write it that way, I think, for constitutional reasons. Now, that said, practically speaking, uh, you have your enforcement discretion always, and I don't think you would ever go after anyone, a private citizen who did that. As Dar pointed out, we've exempted some of the wastes that would typically be handled differently by private parties, a refrigerator or a deck that's being torn down or something like that. Those aren't covered by this. And then we've also provided, and this is going to be important going forward, the county through the DPW and the DPW board does have the ability to phase in this program and also to grant exemptions going forward. We just didn't want to write all of those into the ordinance because we want the ordinance to be generic and flexible for you. But things like this, I think the DPW can think about a little bit more and the county can think about a little bit more and provide exemptions in appropriate cases.
Thank you for that. Yeah, thank you for that clarification. I couple days ago was opposed to the general idea, as I stated philosophically, having reviewed the details and received that clarification that it does apply to individuals. I think it's terrible. I think we should not approve this. I think if Commissioner Hildebrand forgets to put his trash out on trash day and he wants to be able to run that trash over to a landfill in Ionia, that he should be free to do so. It's ridiculous that he would be under the possible penalty of $5,000 in a civil infraction just for getting his trash one day and running it into the closest landfill to him. So I'm very opposed to this.
Right. Commissioner Ponstein.
Thank you, Chair Steck. So I guess the benefit of my longevity of public office is that I did spend 7 years on the city commission in Granville, sat on the waste energy advisory board. Normally the youngest or the freshman person on that council normally gets that assignment for some reason. But once again, we're trying to pit the townships against the cities. And yes, this battle's been going on for a long time. And if you lived in one of the 6 cities, your rates were substantially higher for your trash. And when I was on the city commission, we probably had, 8 to 10 different haulers. And I love it when the chamber comes here and talks about free enterprise, because they weren't saying anything when the larger companies were eating up all these other trash people because of economies of scale. You know, Bob's Disposal was one of my carriers. They were bought out. Duncan was one of my carriers. They were bought out, and they all cited regulation. Well, that doesn't sound like a too free enterprise to me. But, you know, as a county, we took on extreme debt of those leaking old landfills. That's a liability that we now have. That's not a decision I made to do, but because I wasn't on the commission then, I need now to ignore it. We can't. And, you know, I don't know what the answer is, but, you know, at the last minute, people reappear all the time saying, oh, we can do it better, or there's a new way. I mean, we're talking about fairness here now. If as a county, we really believe in recycling, coming up with the best way to dispose of our trash, we can't have separate rates for separate areas just by the way you live. And, you know, someone forgets to take their trash out and wants to run it to, you know, a landfill, that's great. You know, with my trash hauler, which is Aero Waste, which is present, if I forget to do that, I don't just call them and they'll charge me an extra $10, which is far cheaper than me dumping my container into the back of my truck and then, you know, going to the landfill. I mean, you go to other parts of the states and you want to talk about what they charge for disposal pickup, what they charge for disposal of trash. I mean, we've got it pretty good here. Yes, there are some problems. There's tweaks we've got to make, we're the last standing waste to energy facility in the state. You know, I think the state is pretty much bent on closing that down. We've always, you know, we keep saying this is our problem. You know, we've told the state of Michigan, and some have been legislators and worked in Lansing, that bottle bill. You know, our recycling facility gets a lot of those in. You know, it's probably comes up to about $1 million. We don't get any of that. Yet the state of Michigan feels that they need to take a cut to spend elsewhere. I mean, the whole system is not fair. It's certainly not free enterprise, but what I'm concerned about is this movement now. If we want to do these delays, the people will benefit are the haulers that own a landfill. And my hauler, Aero Waste, doesn't have that. So if there's anyone that I'm really worried about in this room is that those folks, that they're not the next ones that will be bought up, and we'll get to a system which, when I was a city council member, was approached by a hauling company saying, you know, you've got to have a single hauler for your whole city. Kind of like what the city of Grand Rapids does. Eliminate the competition. You won't have trucks on the road from 8 different haulers going through your neighborhood every other day of the week. I mean, it's a complex issue, but I think that's what you sign up for when you're an elected official, is that I think someone said, yeah, you have tough decisions all the time. You know, they're tough, but we've got to address this problem. I'm sick and tired of kicking it down the road, getting a study, getting it, you know, the chamber wants another work group. The haulers want a work group. Everyone wants a work group. The one thing we're good at, and I say this a lot, is that government's good at one thing. We study things to death. But the timeline on this issue is up. We've had plenty of years to talk about this. We've got to decide now to make a decision. And are we going to continue the road where we pit the townships against the cities on a thing about flow control and what we charge at the landfill? That's such a small part of your bill. The biggest cost of your trash bill is the haulers that have to pick it up. So, I mean, we can do a lot of things today, but you know, it's just, it's time for us to address this and once and for all come together as a county as a whole. Yes, different parts of the county are different. You know, I get that, but we're either going to do it together or not. We don't charge more people. Well, maybe not. That's a bad example. I'll just leave it at that.
All right. I think Commissioner Antor is next.
Thank you, Chair. I guess after our Finance Committee, Commissioner Coleman and I, we met, we discussed this, and I appreciate your due diligence. He said you'd dive in, and he did. And he relayed the information to me, which I appreciate very much. One of the questions I have is with this penalty increasing from $2,500 to $5,000. Dar, you had mentioned that you have total compliance at $2,500. I mean, it's a non-issue. And I would think that would be, you know, that's like, that's a lot of money for anybody, especially an individual. So why increase it to $5,000 if it's working perfectly fine at $2,500? That's one. The $5,000, that's more of a, I don't know, more of a threat, almost like a gun to your head. If we had, you know, good compliance with 25, I just see that as really overbearing, in my opinion. Also, I've been talking to some township supervisors in my area, and they had indicated that they wrote a letter, a group letter, and they sent it. I didn't see it in my materials, and I'm not sure if
It's in the packet.
it is in the package.
Yes,
Okay, I missed
as
it.
a separate attachment to the email.
Okay, very good. Okay, I'm hoping everybody read it. But, yeah, I think, you know, this is Kent County. We tend to treat everything like it's just Grand Rapids and the rest of the county doesn't count. And we've got amphitheater, we've got the, what else is coming? The aquarium, the soccer stadium, the rapid, all this stuff gets crammed down and the whole county has to pay for it. In this case, you know, now the township has to pay more. Again, it's like a penalty for living outside of Grand Rapids. That kind of getting treated like the, I don't want to go there, but I just don't understand why we can't take a little pause on this and dive back in a little bit, maybe until our December 5th meeting. And especially, get more input, I guess. I was hoping the township supervisors would be here, at least a few of them. So I have to go back and look at that letter. But anyhow, yeah, I'm definitely against that $5,000 increase. I just don't understand that. And I will not be supporting this. Thank you.
All right, I think Commissioner Merchant.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm opposed to the proposed amendments to the solid waste management ordinance before us today. This proposal is nothing more than a money grab for the county without actually providing a solution to our trash problem. Hidden under the guise of rate equity, this proposal increases rates to residents outside the 6 cities without providing any additional services. This new revenue will raise between $8 and $10 million a year. And why? Well, apparently it's being set aside to fund some yet-to-be-designed bioenergy facility at the Sustainable Business Park. In a time where we consistently hear from Kent County residents that they are struggling to provide for their families, we are choosing to raise rates to customers. We've decided that their hard-earned money is more important in our coffer than it is in their pockets. You'll hear that this increase is pennies to our residents, but who are we to decide how much they can afford or cannot? Additionally, this plan requires countywide flow control. It directs all waste collected to Kent County be sent to county-owned waste facilities and landfills. Pay no mind that the county already diverts waste collected to non-county-owned landfills under what we currently do. So this proposal neither minimizes nor diverts current landfill disposal. I won't reread the new designated waste delivery section since that's been covered by a bunch of the other commissioners here, but this new section criminalizes trash for our residents. The fines and penalties and injunction section says a person who violates this ordinance is responsible for a municipal civil infraction and may be ordered to pay a civil fine of not less than $250 and not more than $5,000. As a comparison, I looked up the penalties for Michigan residents if they're caught burning trash. It is arguably cheaper for residents if they were to choose to burn their trash and get caught for it than it would be for them to get caught hauling waste outside of the county. The fines for burning trash are as follows. For the first offense in a 3-year period, a warning by a judge or magistrate. For the second offense within a 3-year period, a civil fine of not more than $75. For the third offense within a 3-year period, a civil fine of not more than $150. And for the fourth or subsequent offense within a 3-year period, a civil fine of not more than $300. This ordinance prohibits residents from hauling a load of trash to a non-county owned landfills. For a majority of residents that I represent, these out of county landfills are much closer for them to get to, and they could face massive penalties if they're caught using these non-county owned landfills. While we are being told here today that DPW will rarely if ever assesses fines to violators, if passed, these fines are enforceable and could be passed down to our residents. Instead of rolling up our sleeves and developing an actual solution to our trash problem, we choose to criminalize trash. Make no mistake that this is what that vote means here today. This proposed ordinance is terrible. I cannot and will not support it. And I urge my colleagues to join me in voting against this and commit to actually finding a solution that works for our residents.
All right. No. No, I don't think there was a question there, so no. Yes, Commissioner Bujak.
Thank you, Chair Steck. When we signed up as commissioners, we knew that we would have difficult decisions like this before us. And as I prepared for this decision, usually it's the no vote that's difficult, but today it's the yes vote. And I decided that I'm going to vote my conscience, and I'm also going to use the weighting of what I'm going to call fiscal responsibility. For over 40 years, Kent County has invested millions of dollars in an integrated waste management system that prioritizes landfill diversion. We've made a financial commitment to a system that I think is irresponsible to walk away from. I think it's financially responsible to approve the flow control and to ensure that we can maintain and build on this diversion infrastructure and not repeat building another landfill in Kent County. For me, it was standing on top of the trash dump in Hunter Street that gave me a real sense of the magnitude of this problem and the amount of material that we'll never be able to retrieve again. Over the past 40 years, we've invested over $235 million in our facilities that help divert material from that landfill. The waste to energy facility was started in 1990, and that cost us $195 million. Most recently, $42 million we invested for a furnace upgrade. Our Safe Chem Center and Administration, which we adopted in 2021, is a $4 million investment. The Recycling and Education Center, which we started in 2010, $19.5 million. And the North Kent Transfer Station, which we started in 1992 and significantly upgraded in 2023, $17 million. We're talking about $235 million of investment by this county in the past 40 years. And for us to walk away from that and not address the problems that we have with that financial responsibility to continue to maintain the facilities that we invested $235 million for would be irresponsible. Also, we have 3 closed landfills and the associated costs of those landfills. Every year, we spend $2.3 million on closed landfill maintenance. And that's only going to increase with the closure of the South Kent and the new costs associated with things like PFAS pretreatment and remediation. Our DPW has a $52.7 million annual budget. 73% of that revenue is to run that department, comes from the tipping fees alone. Those tipping fees help support a system that keeps stuff out of the landfill and ensures our community and environment remains healthy. The flow control ordinance will ensure that work can continue without having to add the problem of building another landfill. We need to build on the 40-year legacy of investing in solutions and a system that prioritizes landfill diversion. I'm fully in support of the Materials Management Committee and the work that they are going to be doing. I feel that the input that we will be getting from the Materials Management Committee will allow us the opportunity to look at this ordinance and even modify it between now and the time that we need to enter an agreement with the 6 cities. So I'm looking forward to seeing what the Materials Management Committee has to offer. But I think the time to vote on this particular ordinance is now.
Thank you. Commissioner McLeod, I apologize. I must have overlooked you before.
Thank you, Chair. So I think that I just wanted to agree with everything that Commissioner Bujak just put forward, and also say that as a commissioner that represents one of the 6 cities who have been financing this for the last 40 years, I think that it is time for us to have some input into that cost from the rest of the community within Kent County. I think that what we heard from Mayor Kepley today in terms of the impact that this is having on the 6 cities, you know, they've committed to helping us figure out solutions for this. We've heard that, you know, the DPW board, as well as the staff and all of the sustainable committee that was part of trying to figure out how to do this for the last 2 years. Like, we haven't been doing nothing. There has been plenty of conversation about ways to make this happen. Again, as you heard Mayor Kepley say, as you heard Chair Steck say, and Administrator Vandenberg say, there has been lots of conversations for years about ways to manage our trash in a sustainable way. There were not many solutions that came forward out of those conversations other than let's figure out the flow control so that we can continue to figure out ways to move forward in a way that is more equitable across the county. The 6 cities should not have to continue doing this on their own for another 40 years. It is time to bring everybody into the fold, bring the conversation forward in a way that everyone has input and the ability to be able to fund a sustainable future for our kids, for our grandkids, for everyone that comes after us. And continuing to landfill is not the answer. I know it's the cheaper solution, but it is not the answer. We have to do something different. And so moving forward with this flow control ordinance is going to allow us to be able to do what we need to do for the next 40 years or longer, right? I live in a city where we have a closed landfill. There is, you know, a Superfund site. Like it is major for those that live in those areas. There's areas where we can't walk, we can't go and do things because, again, there's so much trash underneath it is leaking things that is harmful to us. PFAS is just one of those things, but there's lots of other things that are harmful to our communities. And so I would just say that this should not be an issue of cities versus the outlying townships. It should be something where we're all trying to move forward in a way that everyone benefits. And I think that this is just the first step. I've heard that, you know, obviously there's concern about people getting fined $5,000. The attorney for DPW just shared that that is something that, you know, we have the ability to exempt people. We have the ability to exempt organizations. This is just the first step. This ordinance does not have to be followed in the way that it is written. It's broad for a reason so that we have the opportunity to change and make adjustments to make sure that all of our residents are represented fairly. I don't think that anyone at DPW is going to have I don't see us hiring a person to go after people that are taking their trash to another county's landfill. That is a waste of time, a waste of resources. And I don't think that we would ever do that. We are in a county that does care for our people. We do so many things that uplift our residents and try to do better than other areas within the state. And so I think that this is just a first step. It is not the last step. The Materials Management Committee has some work, you know, set out for them, and I hope that they bring forward options that allow us to make changes to to this ordinance that would allow it to be more fair for everyone. But again, this is just the first step, and I don't believe that it is the end. And I hope that we can continue to have conversations that will move us forward. But I will be supporting this ordinance because I do believe that it's time for everybody to have a bit more skin in the game and not just the 6 cities.
Excuse me, Chair, I'd like to call the question.
Well, I think others may want to make comments first, and that's fair. But maybe not. Any other, I know somebody wants a second chance, but before I give a
I think the
second
point of
chance-
order is that it's a privileged motion, if I'm not mistaken. So I'd like to call the question.
Is there support for the motion to call the question? Support. Debatable. No, not debatable. Takes a 2/3 vote, yes, to end discussion and vote. So those that support the motion calling the question, say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, say no.
No.
All right, we're gonna have to do a roll call on that one tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On the motion to call the question, Commissioners Bujak,
No.
Diaz,
Yes.
Pakla,
Yes.
Wooden,
Yes.
Baker,
Yes.
LeGrand, Oliver King, Hennessy, McLeod,
Yes.
Sparks, Teal, Breavy,
Yes.
Coleman,
No.
Burl,
No.
Ponstein, Hildenbrand,
No.
DeBoer, Merchant,
No.
Antor,
No.
Vice Chair Green,
No.
Chair Steck.
I don't think it matters at this point, but no.
Mr. Chair, you have 9 yeas, 11 nays. The motion fails. The question is not called.
So anyone else wish to address the underlying motion, other than somebody who wants a second shot, which we'll have to wait until we see if anyone wants to go for a first shot. Commissioner Teal.
I just have a couple of questions on timing. Can you clarify when exactly the new ordinance would go into effect?
The timing of it is up to the discretion, but I'll let Dar.
The effective date would be as soon as it's published, I believe 30 days after it's published, if it's approved. The compliance date would roll out as proposed January 1 of 2026. And what we're suggesting is that because the ordinance has a provision in it that allows for a phased-in compliance, that it would be done over a 2 or 3 year period, where phase one would be a group of municipalities, phase two, another group, and then phase three would be 100%. Or you could approach it from a certain percentage of waste, municipal solid waste, delivered by the waste haulers to our facilities, and that would increase over time, perhaps that 2 or 3 year period. There's a couple of ways to approach it, but the actual compliance date would be no earlier than January 1 of 2026.
Okay, and then I guess I'm confused about what the push on time is here today, because I don't, if we have another year in our contract, it's not gonna go into effect for another year. I'm not sure why we have to move this today. I guess I'm looking for some clarification on why do we have to do this right now today when we have our supervisors, and our townships coming to the table saying they want to be a partner. We have our Materials Management Planning Commission that is a group of experts, ready to do the work. And, we have the chamber who's generously offered to contract a third party to review pathway and options. So I guess I'm confused about what a couple of months would do for us, or why we have to go with this right now.
Sure, it's a great question. Thank you. There's a convergence of a couple of issues. One is the mentioned the end of the contracts with the 6 cities, December 31 of 2025. In fairness to the 6 cities and in fairness to the DPW, we need to plan for what things look like after that. And most of us are working on a 3 to 5 year strategic review of how we're spending our capital, how we're investing in facilities, and what that system looks like in the future. So to delay it for an extended period of time really puts down pressure on our ability to make decisions around waste to energy. For example, the mayor had mentioned, and the Board of Public Works approved, $42 million of refurbishment at the waste to energy facility so that it can continue to operate until 2039. $20 million of that 42 have been spent. We would not continue to recommend, although it's currently in our 5-year capital improvement plan process, to the Board of Public Works to authorize any additional work any additional refurbishment, capital refurbishment at that waste to energy facility, if in fact we're going to go to cold iron and turn that facility off. To expend multi-millions of dollars without clarity around the future of that facility wouldn't be fiscally responsible. And most of our planning is at least 5 years in length, because there's times when you're ordering equipment and you're putting various contracts in place, and it's a 2-year delivery of the installation of that equipment at the waste energy facility. Likewise, at the landfill, we need to go into a design, permit, build process starting in 2025, so that we have another landfill that's ready to operate in 2030, because of the timeline that it takes, one, to fund the construction of, to get the appropriate permits to build, and to make sure that you've got all of that lined up. That's not a 3-month, a 6-month, a 12-month process. That's up to 5 year process. Those are 2 examples. The other issue is if the revenue from the South Kent landfill, should we not construct another landfill, today currently backstops the operation of the recycling center. It backstops the operation of the North Kent transfer station, and it backstops the operation of the waste energy facility. So what does that look like? The waste energy facility receives $1 million a year for capital improvement projects from the operation of the South Kent landfill, from the revenue. The North Kent transfer station, because it allows for haulers to deliver in the northern or southern part of the county, receives upwards of $800,000 a year to help support its operation, because it doesn't generate the revenue like a landfill does. Likewise, the recycling center receives $600,000 a year
and backstop the revenue so that we can charge as low a tip fee as possible. If the revenue from the landfill isn't there, as frustrating as it is, the operation of that revenue has helped keep rates lower at other facilities or has helped backstop their operation. So if we don't have landfill revenue and we don't have clarity around the operation of the waste energy facility, we cascade into a process where our staff would make recommendations to the Board of Public Works that we go through a process of closing each and all the facilities in Kent County operated by DPW, because we have to have the revenue to operate. We're an enterprise fund. And without that revenue, it's irresponsible to make 5 to 10 year investments in capital, which is how we look forward, because we're buying multiple $1 million of equipment on an annual basis. And it'd be irresponsible to try to operate a facility that can't predictably deliver energy, for example, to consumers' energy. The complexity at waste energy is such that once you get behind in your refurbishment, once you get behind in capital equipment replacement, you don't catch up. And if you don't catch up, then you have to, you can't responsibly operate that facility. So it's the layering of all those decisions that come into this. And unfortunately, revenue from the landfill over the long term has helped support all these operations. And without that revenue in the future, and without a flow control where we can lay on a reasonable rate that helps support all those operations, including our recycling center, including all the recycling opportunities at North Kent Transfer Station, including the recycling opportunities that we'll propose at the South Kent Transfer Station when the time comes to build it, that all goes away.
Okay, and then were you aware of the chamber's offer for the third party review or admin?
So I am aware of that.
Mhm.
I guess I would echo Administrators Vandenberg's. We've had some of the best and brightest in terms of municipal solid waste and solid waste consultants from across the country advising us, providing input alongside us for the better part of 8 years. We've had the best and brightest of local companies, including the Fishbecks and all the other companies, helping us design, strategically think through, and develop plans. When we issued the request for information, and then we moved to a full request for proposal to propose facilities that could solve to the problem, the companies that were represented here this morning, at least some of them, they participated in that process. But the only solution that they delivered was they were going to be available for landfill disposal. They did not offer processes to separate recyclables out of the waste stream. They did not offer solutions on how to manage a mixed municipal waste stream. I appreciate everything that Padness and all the other scrap dealers do. And scrap dealer isn't even the right description. But they're dealing with source separated material that is set aside, whether it's metal or plastics or whatever the material is, that they then sort and process. We're talking about as soon as you've made a decision to place that trash item in the trash, it has now complicated things because one, your organics is mixed with your plastic bottle, which is mixed with your dirty diaper, which is mixed with whatever else you put in the trash. And that is a public health issue. There's a reason why DPW in the 1960s stepped into this space. We had 29 open operating dumps in Kent County. And we took over 2 of those dumps that became Superfund sites. And those are issues that we need to address today. There was a comment earlier about the fact that a bottle today can be recycled now 8 times instead of 1. That's once it's separated out. The process of separating trash out and making sure that it gets into the right bin or is processed out through a mixed waste processing facility has to happen first before that plastic bottle can then go through a recycling process and be used more than once. There's this disconnect, I believe, between what once it's in the trash can, what happens to it, and then once it's separated out. Where we're stuck, and thanks to Steve and our team, is our recycling rate in Kent County is stagnated and it's been sitting there for 20 years. 75% of what could be recycled that we could put in the recycled bin doesn't even make it there. It's put in the trash.
So it's kind of stacked against us. We would love to put more material through the recycling center if we could.
So you wouldn't be opposed to that third-party study then?
We have completed multiple third-party studies.
But
Over-
it was completed in-house though. I would
It-
like to see an independent one.
I think there were a number of committees and stakeholders from across the community that actually completed that work. We're always open to additional work. Even the materials planning committee, we'll likely bring in a planning or a community engagement consultant to assist them as they look at things. We have been in the business for a while. We do understand the business quite well. Kent County, honestly, the system that we have today is the envy of almost every other county in the state because of the infrastructure. We process recycling for 7 other counties because they don't have the infrastructure locally.
All right, let's keep on. Do
Can
you
I
have any
just-
other points?
Yeah, I would like, based off of all this information, I would like to make a motion to, table this to a date certain, our second meeting, in March, to allow the chamber to, do that third-party evaluation.
Right.
I've got a point of order. Wasn't there a similar motion made that we tabled down or that we rejected?
I wouldn't say it's similar. It has the same effect.
Thank you.
All right, motion to table to date certain, which was second meeting in March of 2025. Is there support?
Support.
Supported. Questions, comments? All right, majority vote. Those that support the motion to table say yes.
Yes.
Those that oppose say no. No. I rule the noes have it. Any further comments? All right, if no one else wishes to go first, then second, but, wait. Yep, sorry.
Can I just make this, so I don't mind listening what the commissioners have to say, but when we're asking questions for someone to come up to answer that were answered already in a work session, it just seems
Yep, I hear
this
you.
meeting's dragging.
I hear you. All right, so if there's no one else for first, then I'll give a 1 minute second because, right, this isn't really, we all know your positions, but if you have, all right, 1 additional moment. Nope. You wanted a second? 1 minute.
Thank you, Chair. Just curious, Dar, is there a penalty? I mean, if someone brings a ton of plastic into your recycle facility and that ends up not going in there, it ends up in a hole, is there a penalty for that? I'm not implying you're doing that, but is there a penalty that you would be invoked against you for taking plastics and putting them in a landfill?
No, there is not a penalty. Today, a tremendous amount of plastics, corrugated cardboard, and other recycled materials are delivered to our South Kent landfill every day and they're buried.
Okay. But there's no penalty if you were to decide that the facility's too busy right now or whatever. And I would like to ask Stan and Al, I guess, I'm still struggling with that $2,500 increase. What was the reasoning behind increasing something that was working so well? There was absolutely no problem. And are we weaponizing the system by putting a really ridiculous fee on there when Dar just mentioned he doesn't have any penalties for doing something egregious?
I think your question's rhetorical, but it's been asked and answered. That's what I get to say.
Yeah, just that
but I'll just make this note. I think in '84 when that went in, it was 2,500. If you want to do a current value of 2,500, it would be 7,500. So in some sense, this is a reduction in the penalty.
But it's a penalty that nobody has been paying because they're off complying. So I don't understand doubling it.
Yeah.
So, thank you.
All right. If there is nothing else, just 1 minute. Commissioner Coleman, this is your second, right?
My second.
So I'm giving
So
1
1 minute
minute
to
for
1 minute.
seconds.
Thank you, Chair. My question is specific around I appreciate Commissioner Bujek and Ponstein bringing up the investments into the existing infrastructure. I think that's important. I think since the $42 million on the waste energy, the dynamics have changed because the state has said that in the last 18 months, I think that no new incinerators can be built, and probably they're going to close ours before we would we would like to see it closed, which changes the investment parameters, I think, a bit. My question is specifically about that. The existing city ordinances have specific carve-outs that you have to take it to waste energy unless you take it out of state. The amendment before us does not have that carve-out. And so I'm just curious, for those, I seem to remember there are some Kent County businesses that ship their waste to an incinerator, I think in Indianapolis. And I'm just curious, since there's no specific legal carve-out anymore, do they have to apply for an exemption?
So I'm going to dangerously play the attorney here a moment. It's the material that they're shipping is normally generated from an industrial operation, and because of the Interstate Commerce Clause, haulers are allowed to ship across state line or across country line, and that's not regulated by. Yeah, it's not regulated. So, in the example of local businesses that are looking for a landfill a zero waste to landfill option, they would like to use our waste energy facility but aren't able to because we don't have capacity. They're shipping it down. Two examples like the new Reworld facility in Indianapolis, Indiana, because they have capacity there, and they're allowed then to go zero waste to landfill. That's why that's occurring.
All right. So just before I call it, just a couple of comments, if I might. This county has been on a very committed strategy and vision for diversion for at least 40 years. And I think that was started by a man that I highly respect, Vern Ehlers, who had a vision for avoiding going into landfilling and establishing something far more sustainable and frankly morally defensible. And here we are at the end of 40 years, and we are at a crossroads. Folks have suggested now, as we finally come up after years and years of study, that we should delay this so that we should spend more time studying and we can go back and get more consultants. And, the folks that are asking that, we're at the table. I know that the haulers, the solid waste disposal companies, were all at this table for years, engaged in the process of finding what's the best solution. I'm particularly frustrated that now we have an opportunity to retain somebody else, another expert. We could have made that recommendation 2 years ago. Nothing would have stopped that. And yet here we are just before we vote on it the night before, there's another recommendation. I love my chamber, but I think it's a little late to now be looking at another expert to dive into the system. I don't mind delaying these kinds of things if there's a realistic basis to believe that there's that hidden solution that we just haven't found yet. But that's hypothetical. That's ethereal. That just is not supported by the facts. We have looked at this over and over, and I personally have been involved in at least a dozen meetings after Plan A went down to say, whoa, what can we do? Everybody's been at the table and having this conversation. And I can't see any good faith basis to believe that delay is going to come up with another solution. I do believe, though, and I take my 6 cities at their word, that if we don't move forward with flow control, this system unravels. And once it unravels, you're not putting Humpty Dumpty back together again. It's over. And we will be devolving into a landfilling future, whether we like it or not. So what's fair in this situation? I mean, the community across the county uses that $250 million that we've invested. They all use it. They don't all pay equally for it. We spend a lot of money to manage our environmental problems. Lots of money. We recover some of it on the surcharge that's applied to everybody in the township and out of the township and in the 6 cities. I think it's $1.64 a year is what that charge is right now. But most of those costs are absorbed in the operations of this system. Most of it, probably 75% of it. If that system unravels and collapses, where does that money go to? Where are we going to collect it from? The townships, the cities. And so the cost is going to get reallocated. Those that think that we can kill this deal and we'll save a lot of money, it's false. because that charge, I think it determined that it goes from $1.64 a year up to over $9.80 a year per individual, per residence. So you're going to pay as much on additional surcharge as you would on additional costs for flow control. So there's no economic advantage to individuals to do this process. So fairness demands it. The fact that we've committed to do this demands it. The fact that we've invested substantial amount of money demands we do it. I would love to have another option, but I think it is just a pie in the sky thinking that we can keep going back and talking and talking and talking and something's going to come out of the sky. It hasn't yet. And in the near future, if it does, fine, we'll deal with it. But I have no reason to believe that it's there. We just haven't found it yet. So I support the motion. I think it's time to get this behind us and move on and make it the best we can across the county. With that, roll call, Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On the motion to adopt Resolution 123, Commissioners Bujak,
Yes.
Diaz, Pakla,
Yes.
Wooden,
Yes.
Baker,
Yes.
LeGrand,
Yes.
Oliver King,
Yes.
Hennessy,
Yes.
McLeod,
Yes.
Sparks, Teal,
No.
Breeby,
Yes.
Coleman,
No.
Burl,
Yes.
Ponstein,
Yes.
Hildenbrand,
No.
DeBoer, Merchant,
No.
Antor,
No.
Vice Chair Green,
No.
Chair Steck.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, you have 14 yeas, 6 nays. The motion passes. Resolution 123 is adopted.
Thank you. For our next one, I'll call on Commissioner Pakla.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's my pleasure to introduce Resolution 124, move for adoption, Resolution 124, Department of Public Works governance structure change from the Department of Public Works.
Support. Moved and supported by Commissioner Diaz. Questions or comments on this one? This is the governance. I don't see any questions or comments. This is a roll call. All right, Rod, you'll do the roll call.
On the passage of resolution 124, Commissioners Bujak,
Yes.
Diaz,
Yes.
Pakla,
Yes.
Wooden,
Yes.
Baker, LeGrand,
Yes.
Oliver King,
Yes.
Hennessy,
Yes.
McLeod,
Yes.
Sparks,
Yes.
Teal,
No.
Breeby,
Yes.
Coleman,
No.
Burl,
Yes.
Ponstein,
Yes.
Hildenbrand,
Yes.
DeBoer, Merchant,
No.
Antor,
No.
Vice Chair Green,
Yes.
Chair Steck.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, you have 15 yeas, 4 nays. The resolution is adopted.
Thank you. For our next item, I'll move and call on Commissioner McLeod.
Thank you, Chair. I move Resolution 125 of today's date, the amended 2024 apportionment report coming to us from the Equalization Department.
Supported by Commissioner Coleman. Questions or comments on this one? This is a roll call. Take the roll, please.
On resolution 125, Commissioners Bujak,
Yes.
Diaz,
Yes.
Pakla,
Yes.
Wooden,
Yes.
Baker, LeGrand,
Yes.
Oliver King,
Yes.
Hennessy,
Yes.
McLeod,
Yes.
Sparks,
Yes.
Teal,
Yes.
Breeby, Coleman,
Yes.
Burl,
Yes.
Ponstein,
Yes.
Hildenbrand,
Yes.
DeBoer, Merchant,
Yes.
Antor,
Yes.
Vice Chair Green,
Yes.
Chair Steck.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, of 18 yeas, 0 nays, the resolution is adopted.
Thank you. For the next one, I will call on Commissioner Sparks.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to move Resolution 126 of today's date, amendment to the Burn Justice Assistance Grant through the state of Michigan to reduce community violence from the Sheriff's Office.
Supported by Commissioner Diaz. Questions or comments on this one? If not, this is a roll call as well.
On resolution 126, Commissioners Bujak,
Yes.
Diaz,
Yes.
Pakla,
Yes.
Wooden,
Yes.
Baker, LeGrand,
Yes.
Oliver King,
Yes.
Hennessy,
Yes.
McLeod,
Yes.
Sparks,
Yes.
Teal,
Yes.
Breeby, Coleman,
Yes.
Burl,
Yes.
Ponstein,
Yes.
Hildebrand,
Yes.
DeBoer, Merchant,
Yes.
Antor,
Yes.
Vice Chair Green,
Yes.
Chair Steck.
Yes,
Mr. Chair, I have 18 yeas, 0 nays. The resolution is adopted.
thank you. For our next item, I'll call on Commissioner Oliver King.
So you have me for the next four. So, um, I'd like to move resolution 127 of today's date, fiscal year 2025 Adult Mental Health Court Grant Budget Amendment brought to us by the 17th Circuit Court.
Is there support?
Support.
By Commissioner McLeod. Questions, comments on this one? I see none. This is a voice vote. All those in favor of the motion, please say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, please say no. It is approved. And we are back to you again, Commissioner Oliver King.
I'd like to move resolution 128 of today's date, Michigan Health Endowment Fund Community Impact Grant brought to us by the Health Department.
Is there support? Supported by Commissioner Pakla. Questions or comments on this one? If not, this also is a voice vote. All those that support the motion, please say yes.
Yes.
If opposed, please say no. It is approved. And again, Commissioner Oliver King.
It's me today. I'd like to move resolution 129, amendment to the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services Comprehensive Agreement for the Sewer Network Program brought to us by the Health Department.
Thank you. Is there support?
Support.
Supported by Commissioner Sparks. Questions or comments on this one? Commissioner McLeod.
So as in finance, I will abstain from this vote as I am an employee of Grand Valley and have approval authority for this project.
Request to abstain is granted. Commissioner Coleman, did you have your hand up? Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a quick comment on this one. I get that it's largely just a pass-through grant, that initiated, during the pandemic. And it's slightly expanding from just checking for COVID in the sewage to checking for, I think, RSV and a couple other things. But I'm going to be opposing this just because I think government is spending too much money at many levels, and this is one thing I just don't see the continued benefit of checking the sewage for COVID. So I'll be against.
All right, Commissioner Wooden.
Thank you, Chair. One, given the fact that we were talking trash earlier today, now that we're talking about wastewater, I hesitate to wonder what pun we're going to use with that one. But two, look, I think ultimately we've seen that testing wastewater is a phenomenal way to detect spikes. And while, yes, concerns about SARS-CoV-2 certainly is not nowhere near where it was when this began, given RSV, influenza, and norovirus being added, and especially the fact that this often involves partnerships with our schools, I certainly see this as a worthwhile endeavor, especially given the fact that this is appropriating from MDHHS. And I've been supportive of this concept for a while. I was very happy that we entered into it at the onset of the pandemic, and glad that we're finding ways to continue this kind of service after the pandemic, so that we can again help keep our residents healthy by getting evidence of things happening before we know they're happening. So, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Commissioner Hunter.
Thank you, Chair. I was just curious if anything has ever come about by testing our sewer water. Has that made a difference in any way of new legislation or whatever to change whatever was causing that contamination? We know the big one up in Rockford, but beyond that, is it could make a difference, I guess?
You certainly don't want me answering that question. Oh, yeah. Adam London is here.
Good morning. Good morning. Did you get the gist of that?
I think so. And let me answer it as I can, and then if you have a follow-up, I'd be happy to do that. So we have, through the testing so far, identified a spike in volume, actually by the Veterans Home last year. That was norovirus, not COVID, where we were able to intervene and help them. And thankfully, that didn't turn into a bigger outbreak of norovirus, because it can be quite devastating to people that are in challenged health condition. COVID is what the origin of this was, and I think there's still value in seeing spikes of COVID. I think the expertise and the technology being proven on COVID and now being useful for RSV and for norovirus, and potentially for other things like measles and even polio. I know in New York City they identified a spike in polio in a certain community and were able to intervene with information and resources for people in that community. That's really the sort of hope that we see for this technology going forward, is that we can see from different parts of the geography of the county if there's a spike in the volume or the presence of something that could be stopped early on before it gets to be a bigger problem.
Just one follow-up. What's Eagle's responsibility in this process? They would also be an organization that would be called perhaps to look into those types of issues.
I don't think Eagle has any participation in this particular project.
Because I know I was dealing with Eagle with the earlier crisis, the PFAS. Was kind of my go-to. You guys were up to your necks in it, and there's all kinds of other questions coming about. So Eagle and I talked quite a bit. So I was just wondering if they're part of this too.
I think the most efficient way to answer your question is that Eagle takes care of the chemical side of it, and this grant is really focused on biologics. So it's focused on bacteria and viruses, where Eagle is going to focus on the chemical side of it, which is going to be your PFAS.
Okay.
So that's the differentiation.
All right, thank you for that.
Really an early predictive tool for infectious disease and pathogens, and not so much chemical agents.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions or comments? I see none. This is a roll call.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On the motion to adopt Resolution 129, Commissioners Bujak,
Yes.
Diaz, Pakla,
Yes.
Wooden,
Yes.
Baker, LeGrand,
Yes.
Oliver King,
Yes.
Hennessy,
Yes.
McLeod,
Abstain.
Sparks,
Yes.
Teal,
Yes.
Breeby, Coleman,
No.
Burl,
Yes.
Ponstein, Hildenbrand,
Yes.
DeBoer, Merchant,
Yes.
Antor,
Yes.
Vice Chair Green,
Yes.
Chair Steck.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, you have 17 yeas, 1 nay, and 1 abstention. The motion passes. Resolution 129er is adopted.
Thank you. For our next one, we'll call again on Commissioner Oliver King.
Thank you, Chair Stack. I move resolution 130 of today's date, add 1 full-time clerk to position for hearing and vision program and amend the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services comprehensive agreement brought to us by the Health Department.
Thank you. Is there support? Supported by Commissioner Diaz. Excuse me. Questions or comments? I see none. This is a roll call.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On the motion to adopt Resolution 130, Commissioners Bujak,
Yes.
Diaz, Pakla,
Yes.
Wooden,
Yes.
Baker, LeGrand, Oliver King,
Yes.
Hennessy, McLeod,
Yes.
Sparks,
Yes.
Teal,
Yes.
Breeby, Coleman,
Yes.
Burl,
Yes.
Ponstein, Hildenbrand,
Yes.
DeBoer, Merchant,
Yes.
Antor,
Yes.
Vice Chair Green,
Yes.
Chair Steck.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, you have 18 yeas, 0 nays. The motion passes. Resolution 130 is adopted.
Thank you. For our last resolution, I will call on Commissioner McLeod.
Thank you, Chair. I move Resolution 131 of today's date, adding 1 full-time outreach worker position for the Wise Woman program coming to us from the Health Department.
Is there support? Support. Supported by Commissioner Sparks. Questions or comments on this one, Commissioner Ponstein?
I'm just requesting a roll call vote on this.
Any other questions or comments? If not, this is now a roll call.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On the motion to adopt Resolution 131, Commissioners Bujak,
Yes.
Diaz, Pakla,
Yes.
Wooden,
Yes.
Baker, LeGrand, Oliver King, Hennessy, McLeod,
Yes.
Sparks, Teal,
Yes.
Breeby, Coleman,
Yes.
Burl,
Yes.
Ponstein, Hildenbrand, DeBoer, Merchant,
Yes.
Antor, Vice Chair Green,
Yes.
Chair Steck.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, you have 16 yeas, 2 nays. The motion passes. Resolution 131 is adopted.
Thank you. We'll now move to public comment, our second opportunity for public comment. If there's anyone here from the public that wishes to address the board on our general jurisdiction matters, you may do so now. You have up to 3 minutes. Please identify your name and your address.
Hello, my name's Brad Cohens. I'm with IC Solutions. We're the incumbent provider for inmate telephones, video visitation, tablets, mail scanning, all those services at the jail. Responding to RFP 5700, where it was awarded. I don't think it's been presented yet to you all yet for approval, but we sent out a letter and then we sent out another letter, adding further clarification as far as what we believe in the bid evaluation. ICS is providing lower rates to inmates, higher revenue to the county. Smart received higher scores than us, so we believe that there was some flaw in the methodology of the evaluation. FCC order update, if you're not familiar, the Federal Communications Commission. The Circuit Court rejected all requests for the stay of the order that essentially reduces phone rates from 16 cents down to 7 cents for inmates. But in the offers that we provided in our bid, ICS and Smart calling rates are compliant with new FCC rates. ICS will remit 2 cents per minute as cost recovery to the county. Smart retains all of the revenue and pays nothing to the county. IC Solutions and Smart streaming content and media over the tablets are the same, but ICS will remit 56% revenue generated to the county. Smart retains all the revenue and pays nothing to the county. So their rates are 4 times higher. As far as photos, they're $1, ours is $0.25. And for messages, ours is $0.25 and theirs is 50 cents. So in doing this, the county basically walks away from $1.6 million and Smart pays nothing to the county. What we're asking you to do is review the first letter of concern and then review the second letter of concern. We sent the second letter because we were told that they were going to come to you and say, well, what we said wasn't true. The information that we received, which we're sharing with regard to letter 1 and letter 2, came directly from FOIA from county purchasing. Meaning, why did we not, why are they looking at going in a different direction? We analyzed that and we've shared that revenue with you. We appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? I don't see anyone else, so close public comment. Administrator report.
Yeah, I don't have anything that can't be included in my week in review, so I will pass.
I was hoping you'd say that. Reports. Any reports? I see. Yes, Commissioner Ponstein.
So I know it's been long, so I'll do the Cliff Note version. There was a pension meeting yesterday morning. I sit on the pension board with Commissioner Teal. In a nutshell, the assets in our pension plan are $1.3 billion. It's a 100% fully funded plan. And I think that bodes well for the county. And I know it's a benefit that the employees rank highly every time they are doing a survey about their job and their benefits. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? If not, Madam Clerk, can you give us just a real short report on elections?
I can unless you prefer me to email it.
Well, that's nice. I would prefer to take the email unless somebody needs to hear it at 11:30 in the morning. All right. Thank you. Any other reports? If not, miscellaneous, any miscellaneous? No miscellaneous. You're going to move to adjourn that. So you're going to do?
I am going to move to adjourn. I would just like to shout out to the veterans. I cannot let it go. It's their month.
Yes.
Thank you. I'm done.
Right. Keep your lights green. Yes. Commissioner Ponstein.
I just want to shout out, I have a nonprofit in my district, the Pregnancy Resource Center. I know I mentioned this last meeting. They had their fundraiser. Over 400 people showed up, raised over $800,000 in support of young women or any woman that wants to bring a human being to full term. They provide assistance before, during, and after. And I want to just a shout out to all those people that attended and the work that the PRC does. And hopefully that work can continue. I know there's, people out there that would love these centers to be closed, but it's a valuable asset, not only to our county, but to young women and families. Thank you.
All right, just one miscellaneous item from me. Again, thank you all for your hard work and attention and drilling down on the solid waste issue. Nothing in that was easy. Nothing in that was easy to understand or to decide. So thank you for all of that, even though you didn't all get your way. This issue is not going to go away. We continue to have to focus on this going forward to find how do we do this in the most effective, fair, and equitable way. So don't let it go. Keep that information, keep that skill set alive. We'll move forward. With that, did I generate a miscellaneous out of you? Gee.
I'm sorry. Sorry, Stan.
Yes.
I just wanted to kind of dovetail on that.
Commissioner Antor has a miscellaneous item.
Yes, I wanted to thank everybody that worked. I know there's been a ton of work over this, especially as long as I've been here since we've talked about this issue. And I do appreciate all the work, even though I voted no. Sometimes we equate work sessions and a ton of work with a good solution. And I'm not sure if we got there on this one. And it's terribly complicated, above our pay grade. But, you know, I live in a township and I got a lot of feedback from the township folks. And so, yeah, it passed, and hopefully we can tweak it as we go because there will be some issues coming up. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, now I'll call on Commissioner Sparks for a motion.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like the motion that we adjourn.
All in favor, say yes. Thank you all. We are